Thank you, Sam. I get to run around with a mic today when we have answers and questions, so that's why I get to keep it.
Lisa, could you introduce to us who we have online today?
For governor, want to introduce yourself? Say hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello. How you guys doing?
Yeah, he's running for governor. And then Tom Horne.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we have with us here today Bill Hardt. Bill Hardt, all right. So over the period of time that we've been doing these debates, introductions, there's been three categories that have come up a lot. And those three categories happen to be election integrity, the borders, and waters. So we're going to start out with Neely first. Would you like to choose one of those and share with us what you feel in your role and in your office that you're running for can help in that area? Can you hear us? Well, we're working it out. Tom, why don't you come up? Bill. Or Bill, I'm sorry. Tom's on the screen.
Do you want me to speak?
Oh,
Okay, you want me to just
Yes.
question or give a little speech first?
What we want you to do is go ahead and introduce yourself and then let me know which category you want. And then I've got a little bit on that.
Okay, very good. Folks, my name is Bill Hardt. I was down here, I don't know, 6 weeks ago at the senior center, so some of you have met me. I live in Bullhead City. I moved there in 2006, and my wife and I at that time opened up the Sylvan Learning Center, tutoring children and adults. We moved to Bullhead from Michigan, but I have lived in 9 different states and I've done business in all 50 states for a very large insurance company, wound up on their senior staff. So I know how to deal with big budgets. The budget I dealt with on senior staff was about half the size of the state of Arizona, about $8 billion in today's dollars. In Bullhead with the Sylvan Learning Center, I made a payroll for 25 employees, so I understand the big and I understand the small. I originally grew up in Wisconsin. I'm a veteran. My father joined the Army the first business day of 1919 and retired December 31st of 1958 as Chief of Staff of the 32nd Infantry Red Arrow Division. So I am a military child, if you will. I spent my time in the 47th Infantry Division. My brother was in the Navy. His oldest son made Top Gun, although they gave him helicopters, not jets. And we have a grandniece that flies warplanes. So I really, truly understand the military. After the military, I've spent about 40 years in the insurance industry, selling group health insurance and pensions to group pensions to business and industry. I know intimately health insurance, Social Security, all the pension stuff. And most recently, after the Democratic Depression destroyed our business, worked at an assisted living center, and then I worked for Comfort Keepers in-home care. I did that for a purpose. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, and I figured that I would have to help one of my brother, either my brother or my sister, and I needed to know. Unfortunately, my first patient was my wife. She passed a few years ago. God bless. Having said that, I'm here. I'm alone. I cannot stand the thought of sitting by idly, and that's why I'm running. I'm also a very active Republican. I have been a state committeeman since 2016. I was treasurer of the Mojave County Republican Central Committee. I was on the Trump senior staff in 2020, and that's why I got so angry I had to run for this position. I've never run for election before, but I know what I'm doing, and I would represent you as my constituents in any number of areas that I really am expert on. Now, I think you might want to ask your, well, that worked out well.
All right, I forgot to mention for everyone that's here with us, for the candidates and for you out there, 1 ring means you got 1 minute left. 2 rings means you have 2 minutes left. Or 2 minutes, sorry, let me say that again. 1 ring means you got 1 minute left, 2 rings mean you're finished.
Sorry,
Okay.
one more?
What's that?
Was that 1 ring or 2?
That was 2.
That was 2.
Okay. So there was 3 categories, and since we've got 3 of you here, I don't want to have the last person stuck with it. So the 3 categories that come up the most often were our integrity in elections, was border security. The third was water, but there may be another area that you would like to reach on. And what we want to know from you is, in your office that you're running for, if you're elected, what can you do concerning that particular area? So which one would you like to go with?
I think I'll go with border.
With the border? Let me give you a little statistics here. I did some running on some numbers here. And the U.S. Border Census, Border Patrol, and U.S. Customs report on illegal immigration says that what they considered for crimes for people crossing the border was 2 or more crimes within the country. In 2021, people in this country who came here across our borders, 10,716 had, or 10,763 had 2 or more illegal actions. Battery assault was 1,178. Burglary is at 825. And this is, by the way, just for the year 2021. Driving under the influence was 1,629. Drug possession or trafficking, 2,138. There were 60 homicides by those who crossed our border illegally in 2021. So far this year, that number is now 50. Sexual offenses are at 488. How in your office, then the question is, what is your plan, if elected, to tackle the U.S. border problem, as well as, as well as dealing with the crime issues concerning them?
That's a very good analysis of what's going on, or what has been happening at the border just south of here. And there are a number of things which you need to know, although I expect that Leo Biasucci gave you a fair number of answers if you were here last week. I'll start with some immediacy or recency. This morning, President Biden announced that he was going to finish building the wall in Yuma. If you're not aware of that, he's serious. He's going to do that. Why is he doing that? He thinks he can get away with it because the Indian tribe, whose name I forget, over in the southeast corner of the state, will never have a wall. It's a sovereign nation with land in both Arizona and Mexico. And the members of the tribe have married into the cartels. And therefore, the biggest problem we have in Arizona on the border is, in a sense, doesn't matter what we do, because the Indian tribe will always be open unless we find a way to build the wall around the US part of the tribe. And we try to pull that off, there's probably going to be hell to pay, because they, of course, are a sovereign nation. Having said that, you should be aware that there is that problem, and it's going to take time to fix. However, to address the other part of what you were saying, the last legislature passed a law that authorizes county sheriffs to arrest illegal immigrants. This is what Leo Biasucci probably told me. What does that mean? That means literally the county sheriffs can pull over any illegal immigrant they see, whether they're on foot or in a car or in a truck or whatever, and they can arrest them. Am I getting bills or 1 minute? Okay, thank you. Got to play by the rules. And that's a very important thing. I was at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association meeting in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. We have the constitutional sheriffs that are on our side, and they will, at least those in Arizona, enforce the law the legislature passed, okay? The third piece of that is the legislature also authorized, I believe, by the way, I think they put $500 million into this fund. And they also authorized activating the National Guard to do more than paperwork, to do the job that needs to be done on the border. Now, sum total, we're not gonna, I'm sorry, I shouldn't put it that way. Unless and until we fix the Indian tribe, we're not gonna have a secure border. Okay?
In closing, give us your name again and the office you're running for. I'll make sure to get that.
Sorry about that. I'm Bill Hardt. I'm running for state representative in LD 30, which is what you guys are. I like Quartzsite. Most recent issue, that was me on the back page. Okay.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I know Lisa, and I know the other two as well, and we've had a lot of fun. Enough said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Read your vote. Would either one of the other two candidates like to speak on this subject, or is there another one that you'd like to speak on? Raise your hand if you can hear us. That's
I'd like to speak on the subject.
okay. Absolutely. You get 3 minutes to do that. Again, give us your name at the beginning and the end and the office that you're running for.
So my name's Scott Neely and I'm running for Arizona governor. And I've been building the border wall for 17 years. I've built different sections throughout the border, throughout the state. And I think we need to build 3 strategic National Guard border barracks. And I think we need to build Guantanamo, Arizona tent cities next to them. And I think we need to take some of that $544 million to do that. I think we need to take the steel that's at Stinger Steel and Coolidge and truck it to the wall and get it started again in the section we have control over building on. And I think we need to negotiate with the Tohono O'odham tribes and the other tribes that are on the border that go into Mexico that are married into the cartels. And I think we need to make deals with them that are going to make them less susceptible to wanting to do deals with the cartel and want to actually be married to the United States of America instead of be married to the cartels in Mexico. I do want to use the National Guard, activate them, and I want to use them to set up and maintain drone technology, facial recognition technology, and put seismic rods in the ground so we can detect when they're drilling under, because they're using professional miners to build the tunnels that go under the border all over the place. And there's a big section of tunnels out there in the buried Goldwater bombing range. And unfortunately, our National Guard and our Border Patrol are not allowed to go out there and police that area because it's federal government restricted airspace and land space. So it's basically the Suez Canal of trafficking. And sorry to say, but there's people involved in our government trafficking people into the United States, and that needs to stop. So we need a governor strong enough, willing to put his life on the line, per se, to go down there and actually battle with the feds to stop what's going on. Some of those tunnels that are coming under our military bases and into our land here in the United States, into Arizona. That needs to stop. It's a huge business. Our government's involved, and I've had enough of it. And you know what? I'm willing to die for my country. So as governor, if that's what I have to do to save our state, that's exactly what I'll do to save our state. I'm going to activate the sheriffs. The sheriffs are going to deputize posses. We're going to use the unorganized militia. We're going to do everything we can to protect our state. I've had enough. I don't want Arizona turning into the state that I came from. I came from California. I've been here 20 years. California has turned into cartel land. It's turned into Mexico. And I'm not going to allow Arizona to do the same thing.
Thank you very much. We know you, but go ahead and give us your name because I don't want to miss in the office you're running for.
Is it my turn?
Yes. Give us your name, the office you're running for. Did you want to answer to this question or would you prefer election integrity or water? Which would you prefer?
I'm going to try to cover all three.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Tom Horne. I'm running for the office of State Superintendent of Schools. I was the State Superintendent of Schools from 2003 to 2011. Then I became the Arizona Attorney General. Previous to that, I had served 24 years on the school board for Arizona's third largest district. And at the legislature, I was chairman of the Academic Accountability Committee back in the 1990s. My friends tell me that having been Attorney General and then running again for superintendent, I'm going backwards. But I don't think so. My response to that is the big problem is in our schools, and that's what I want to work on. Quick comment on the first two questions. As far as election integrity goes, I'm the only individual in the entire state of Arizona who has argued a case to the United States Supreme Court on election integrity. And I did that as Attorney General, and as a result of that, people who don't actually prove that they're citizens, only swear that they're citizens, can vote only in federal elections, but there's a separate ballot where they cannot vote in state elections if they don't prove that they are citizens. On the issue of the border, as Attorney General, I spent a lot of time at the border. I'm a very strong advocate of finishing the wall. I think the whole thing is wasted as long as there are areas where people can just walk through because the wall's not done. Until you get it totally done, a chain is no stronger than its weakest link, and I think we need to finish the wall, or the whole effort has been a waste, and that's the only way we can really control our border, which is a number one aspect of sovereignty. In terms of what I will do as superintendent, my first issue is that I want to get critical race theory out of our schools. I think Republicans want to know, thank you. I think Republicans want to know who's most qualified to do that important and difficult job, and I claim to be that person because I did it once and I can do it again. The last time I was superintendent, Tucson had a program called Ethnic Studies, which included critical race theory. As superintendent, I wrote a bill for the legislature to pass to put a stop to it. My last year in office as superintendent, they passed it, and then as Attorney General, I enforced it. Facing a cutoff of funds, Tucson eliminated that program. So I did it once, and I can do it again. My focus as superintendent of schools was on academics, and as a result, when I left office, Arizona students performed above the national average on the SAT test, a national test that the states cannot manipulate. Since I left office, my successors have not had the same focus on academics, and as a result, students are learning less and our test scores have gone way down. When is the last time you ever heard about Arizona students performing above the national average? Not since I left office. So I want to focus on getting us back, our academics back, and get our test scores up to where we compete on a national level. I want to be sure that students who don't speak English are in English immersion classes and not in bilingual education. That passed as an initiative. It was ignored by my two predecessors. I was the only one who enforced it. And when we moved from bilingual education to English immersion under my administration, the amount of students becoming fluent in English in 1 year went up from 4% to 29%.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you.
All right, we're going to go in the opposite order at this time. So we'll continue on with you. And please, again, give us your name and tell us why you deserve our vote.
And are you asking that of me?
Yes. We'll start with
okay. Well, I think I deserve your vote because the schools are not doing well now. And I have demonstrated that under my policies of focusing on academics, getting rid of crazy things like critical race theory, making sure students that don't speak English are in English immersion classes, emphasizing discipline in the classroom, which we've completely lost now since I left office. Kids can't learn without discipline in the classroom. Holding schools accountable for low test scores, which I did when I was superintendent, but hasn't been done since I left. The students will learn more, their test scores will come up, and that's what the schools ought to be about.
All right, thank you very much. Neely, would you go ahead and
Me?
yes, share with us.
Okay, we're talking about the school, or what are we talking about?
why we should vote for you, to convince us why you deserve our vote.
Okay, why you should vote for me is because I'm not an elitist. I've never gone to Harvard. I'm a middle-class guy, blue-collar worker. I also build websites and do computer programming, but it's not something I talk about often. But I didn't learn that in college, and you don't have to go to college to learn it. There's so much you don't need to go to school to learn. You know what you do to learn? You learn in the real world. You do hands-on stuff. See, I wanted to learn how to build websites. I figured out how to do it. I wanted to learn how to computer program. I figured out how to do it. I wanted to learn how to finish concrete. I learned how to do it. I wanted to learn how to be a mechanic. Never did it before. Learned how to do it. I'm a great mechanic. I sell equipment and I work on it. Anything you can put your mind to, you can do if you're willing to do it. But we have so many kids stuck on electronics. We have so many kids that are being pushed to do academic things, but not all kids are academics. I think only maybe 30% of people are academics, and I think maybe 70% are hands-on people. But we're pushing 90% of people to do academic things when 90% of people are not cut up for it. So what we're doing is we're destroying our future workforce. We've been destroying it since I graduated high school and since long before then. Even sadly to say, a lot of the tradesmen push their kids, hey, don't be like me, don't be like your father, don't learn how to do this hard work that we do. Go ahead and go to school and get a better job and have a better life. Turns out though, that the father that was in construction has a lot more money and a lot more real estate and a lot more assets than the kids that went to college and don't have anything to their name except college debt and no ability to get a loan to buy a home because of the college debt. We've been sold a lie for way too long. Too much money has built up these academic universities. We haven't put money into trade schools. We haven't put money into vocational schools. We haven't expanded those in decades. And that is a major problem. They think, and I don't give a crap who says what, Republicans and Democrats want to use illegal aliens for their labor. I don't give a crap what they say. They're going to say in Scottsdale, we're voting Republican. You lying sons of guns. You're liars. You're the ones that are hiring illegal aliens on your job sites because they're cheaper. Okay. You think you can import labor and skill. You're not importing it. What's happening is they're coming here. They don't have the skill. And then the other illegals that are already here are training them and giving them the skills. So our skills of training have been taken from us and passed on to other nations who come here to do the jobs that they're taking away from us that they say we don't want. And the reason we don't want them is because we've been programmed to go to college and become an academic. So we've been programmed to not have any kind of life skills, hands-on skills, any kinds of skills at all. And we have essentially just about lost our country as a result of it because we don't have men that can be men anymore, that are hands-on, that could even change a car tire on the side of the freeway. I mean, men can't even do that anymore. We are going to be invaded and attacked, and we won't be able to stop them because without men, America's done.
Thank you very much. Now Mark come back up and introduce himself and explain to us why. Absolutely.
Once again, I'm Bill Hardt, folks. Why should you vote for me? Probably because I have the most broad experience, having worked with every business, or I should say, almost all businesses and variations of industry, in selling them and their employees group insurance, health, group pensions. I know Social Security intimately. I work big budgets. I worked a small company. I'm a supporter of small companies. I have the experience and also some education. I have a master's in management and a master's in financial services. Talking about a couple of things. On the water, I assume that you heard last week from Leo Biasucci and the others. There are three things going on in the water area. The first one is we have to recycle every single drop of water that we get our hands on. 72% of our water goes to agriculture. They're the biggest ones that need to recycle water, but we have a responsibility as well. It's the old story, 5-minute showers, get one of those low volume toilets, anything you can do to recycle water. The second thing is we need to renegotiate the 1927 contract among the 6 states and Mexico and get Mexico and California off of the Colorado River. What those 2 areas need to do is they need to build desalinization plants and get off the river. The third piece is actually in 2 pieces. I heard the second piece a couple of weeks ago, and that is to build a pipeline from the Midwest to here. What was it? I forget where the news was this morning. I think it was Kentucky had a major flood, and that's one. I heard it that time. Everybody has agreed, I'm talking Midwestern states, that they will help pay for the pipeline to get the water here. I've also heard that if we in fact build a pipeline from eastern Arizona to western Arizona, that can help relieve the water shortage or water problem, I should say, as well. Because eastern Arizona is much higher, they have much more water from rain, et cetera, et cetera. So that really is one of the things I did want to touch on. I think I've given you most of what I have in terms of the background, and I do ask you to vote for me. Remember, you vote for 2 of the state representatives. So vote for me, pick one other. I happen to like Leo a lot, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay, and tell us who you're directing your question to.
I'm Richard Freese, and anyone that wants to talk, we've been talking a lot about water in Arizona. One of the things that concerns me is every time I drive up to Phoenix, we've got this nice canal that comes from the Colorado River that goes all the way to Phoenix. And I've been out there when it's been 115, 120 degrees. How come that isn't covered? I mean, I would really like to know how much evaporation is taking place. How many thousands or millions of gallons are we losing into the atmosphere? Why isn't that covered? Why isn't that one of the first projects that we take right now? Because that is in our hands and in our control. Do they want to go first?
Who would like to answer that one?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we should cover it. They've been doing it in other countries. We should cover it with solar panels. Why not create energy while we're covering it all the way from Colorado River, all the way into Phoenix and all the way down to Tucson? Why don't we cover the entire CAP canal with solar panels? Then we can make the tree huggers happy. All at the same time, we get less evaporation out of that canal.
Yeah.
Let's do a win-win situation on there, huh? How shall we?
Thank you very much. Any of the other candidates want to answer on that one? Tom, did you want to speak to that one? Hold on just a second. We're not hearing you.
Unmute yourself.
Are you on mute?
Oh, okay, can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree that covering the canals is a good idea. Among the other benefits, it would reduce drownings in the canals.
Oh, yes.
I guess they can hear me there. I don't know there's much I can add because I talked about it in some detail in my last speaking position. Cover the canal? Sure, why not? Generate additional electricity, anything we can do to help the problem. But the biggest thing we need to do, frankly, as the state legislature, as a state legislator, is I need to get the legislature, and we need to get a committee, which does exist, by the way, to push hard for the pipeline from the Midwest and from eastern Arizona. This has not been a major issue in legislative work up until now. I will make it one of my personal goals and objectives to get this thing off the ground and get it moving. This is not a short-term fix. It probably will take more than 5 years, maybe 10, to get it done, which is why we have all of the other things to deal with up until then. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Over here. And you can address it to all of them or just one candidate if you'd like.
Okay, I'll address it to everyone, but Bill spoke on the local sheriff's department able to arrest illegal aliens. A lot of people have actually talked about the process of arresting. Well, what do we do with those illegal aliens afterward? Do we have any due process to get them back across the border, or are we shipping them up to DC? Or what are we doing with them after we arrest them?
As long as you've got that. Thank you. From what I'm told, what Leo Biasucci, Sonny Borelli, and Regina Cobb did in the last session is the sheriffs and the sheriff posses have the ability to arrest, detain, try, convict, and depending on what they're convicted of, either put them in jail or get them back into Mexico. The biggest thing that we have to do, I believe, to make sure that law functions is whoever is the attorney general has got to get the structure set up in order to get the legal process going properly. If you're not aware, the attorney general has 382 attorneys in his office, Brnovich I'm talking about. Guess how many of them were put on election integrity? 1. Okay. Well,
No, that's good.
oh, there you go.
Would anyone else like to answer that or speak to that?
I could speak to it. I was the Attorney General. It's my understanding that if an illegal alien is convicted of a crime, they serve their time in prison and then they're sent back to their home country.
I can answer something on that. An illegal alien only has to serve 50% of their time because of our treaty with Mexico for the same crime that an American citizen commits. And oftentimes after a year, they can actually be sent back to their own country to serve out the rest of their time in their own country, in their own country's prison. But that's a scam too, because they get sent back and then come right back over with more dope in hand. So if an American gets convicted in Arizona, he's got to do 85% of his time. If an illegal gets convicted, he only has to do 50% of his time. I want to know why they're doing that. Huh? You know, Tom Horne. Tell me.
All right. Any other questions from the audience? One here.
I should say the Attorney General's office has nothing to do with treaties.
Okay, well then guess what? As governor, I'm going to have a lot to do with treaties. I'm going to go beyond what the federal government does. I'm going to protect our state. We have the right to protect our state. We'll make our own treaty with Mexico that'll supersede the federal treaty. If that is what must be done to make it fair to the American citizens. I'm tired of living a two-standard life system. I've got to have workman's comp. I've got to pay payroll tax. I got to have insurance. I got to have vehicle insurance. I got to have a CDL to drive a cement truck around. But an illegal alien can drive a cement truck without a CDL, deal dope with that cement truck, drive dope around the valley with that cement truck. Not a problem. Do half his time in prison, but the Americans got to do 85% for the same crime of drug dealing. Why is there a two setup system? Why do I have to have a contractor's license to contract? But yet, when I go and ask the ROC, hey, why don't you bust all the illegals that are contracted without a license? They said there's too many of them. There's too many of them. All right, well, then we're going to defund the ROC because if you can't do your job, we're shutting you down. We're going to defund the Department of Education here in the state of Arizona because if you can't do your job and make my kids smarter, we're shutting you down. There's 5 vice principals at Mesa High. Mountain View has 6. 12 counselors, department heads over each department, all $80,000 to $100,000 a year jobs. Also, they can have a big pension. I'm tired of it. You're all a good old boy system in Arizona. It's almost like we have a mafia state here. It's almost like this state's run by the mafia. Enough's enough. The government here is the mafia. The government of Arizona is the mafia. We are the ones working with the cartels directly. And that's ending under a Neely administration. And if you think I'm mad now, imagine when I'm governor.
Thank you very much.
If I could just say to Scott that I've always been crusading against excess spending on administration in the schools. When I served on a school board, as soon as my group got a majority, we sent a lot of people from the district office back to the classroom. Our percentage of district office to overall budget was 2.5%. When I was in the legislature, I wanted to limit it to 5%. I thought if we could do it for 2.5%, they could do it for 5%. But the inefficient districts had too much influence. I couldn't get it through. But that's one of my priorities is the funding should go to teacher salaries and class size and not to administration.
I agree 100%. That's exactly where it needs to go.
All right, thank you very much. We got another question here.
It's good to see I'm not the only pissed off American here. So my question is directed toward everybody. I'm Sam Saxton, local resident of Quartzsite. I heard a while back of federal government overreach into the schools, where if you didn't let a boy go into the bathroom because he claimed that he was a girl, that Biden would take the lunch money away. That's major overstep on federal. I can kind of figure out what I'm going to hear back from that already, which is fine. But federal overreach in our education system. What are we going to do with that? How are we going to squeeze them out like the infestation they are?
Okay, who'd like to start first on that one?
I could answer that. I've had a lot of experience with that. I used to say that my two favorite sports are fighting the teachers union and fighting the federal government. Now the Biden administration proposal, I think, has not yet been adopted as a rule. It has to go through a procedure with taking input. So people should give input. That's a crazy idea. You know, some woman said she didn't know what the definition of a woman is. A woman is someone with 2 X chromosomes, and a man is someone with an X and a Y chromosome. And the man should go to the men's restroom, and the woman should go to the women's restroom. When I was superintendent, the federal government, they were asking kids to determine if they're English language learners. They were asking them to answer 4 questions. It should have been just 1 question, and that is, what's the primary language of the student? But they asked 4 questions, one of which was, does anybody in your household speak a different language? So on the Navajo reservation, there were kids who spoke only English, and they said, well, my grandmother speaks Navajo. So they gave them a test, and some of them failed the test, not because of language, English was their only language, but because of academics. And so they put them in a bilingual class where they're being taught in Spanish. Well, you can imagine how the Navajos felt about that. So I changed it so there was only 1 question, what's the primary language of the student? So the federal government came down on me and said, I'm violating people's civil rights by having 1 question instead of 4 questions. So I said, if you want to influence what I do, take me to court. I know where the courthouse is, I'll meet you there, but I'm not going to succumb to you unless a judge tells me I have to. And they never did. But my successor gave in on that. Another example was, some teachers were teaching English to kids whose English was very bad, they had heavy accents. So we said, do something else in the school, but don't teach English to kids when your own English isn't good enough for them to learn. The federal government said, oh, you're discriminating against these poor people for their accents.
1 minute.
Again, I said, I'll meet you in court about it. They never did, but my successor gave into it. So you have to have a superintendent of schools who's willing to fight the federal government. And as a lawyer and a former attorney general, I know how to fight the federal government.
All right, thank you very much. Would you like to speak to this? Scott, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. So what's the question on this one? Because I got a lot of stuff I
Overreach in
can
the
talk
school
about.
system.
What is
Overreach in the school systems by the federal government.
Yeah, well, get rid of the Department of Education. First of all, get rid of the Arizona Department of Education, second of all, and send the funding directly to the school districts under the condition that they raise teacher pay and get rid of all the administrative unnecessary positions that are all duplicate positions. Mesa High told me the reason they have 5 vice principals is because they have a discipline problem. Funny thing is, the office was empty. There was no bad kids in there. And as far as I can tell, the schools are less dangerous today than they were in the 80s and 90s, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. They were dangerous. They're not dangerous anymore. These kids have their faces in a cell phone all day. They're not out there fighting on the playground. I can tell you that. In my day, we were out punching each other in the face on the playground. They don't do that anymore. There's no discipline problem anymore. These kids are, no offense, pansies. Okay, we're raising a generation of pansies. And that's a problem, in my opinion. We got a generation of pansies being run by a generation of administrators that are essentially draining the system. What is it? $7.9 billion in Arizona now goes to education. That's the most in history under this wonderful governor's signature on this $18 billion omnibus budget. That's disgusting to me. They paid off $1.2 billion in pension debt. Pension debt that was built up by all these overly bloated administrators. And the kids have become stupider. Let's face it. No offense, but other than the few people who actually raise their kids and are involved in their kids' lives, like I am and my wife is, other than the parents that are actually involved with their kids, the ones that let the schools and these administrators raise their kids, those kids, by and large, are not very educated. They don't have any academic skills, but they also don't have any life skills. We need life skills training back. We need to bring back, teaching how to build credit and balance a checkbook. These kids don't know how to do anything. And we need to bring back auto shop. We need wood shop, metal shop.
1 minute.
The only way to build common sense skills, or common sense in the brain, is built by skills that you use with your hands. Because you hit your hand with a hammer, ooh, that hurts. Common sense says don't do it again. You build common sense by doing things in the real world through real experiences. You cannot build common sense through academia. It's not possible. I've met too many highly intelligent people that are academics with terrible credit. I've met too many doctors that have the worst credit you've ever seen. Book smart as hell, probably can use a scalpel because that's what they were taught to do, but they have some of the worst credit you've ever seen. I used to work years ago for Brown & Brown Chevrolet for Henry Brown, and I was a finance manager. Some of the most educated people have the worst credit. Why is that? Because they don't have any common sense. Because they don't have any life experience. They don't have any life skills. They're just academics. Bring back vocational learning, bring back common sense, and then the world will get better. Period.
Thank you very much.
Can I respond to what Scott said?
Yeah.
What used to be called vocational education is now called career and technical education. And I put a lot of emphasis on that.
We need more though. We need more
Yes.
EBITs. We need them everywhere.
Well, that's what I did, and that's what I will do if I'm elected. What we did was we would make councils of people from different industries, and they would tell us what were the skills that were needed in the future. And so we would only fund those programs that would create skills that were going to be in demand in the market in the future, and we cut off funding to programs that prepared kids for which there was no market in the future. I also combined the academic standards with the career technical education standards, because for a lot of jobs, a student that's taking auto mechanics can graduate from high school and get a very high paying job, but they need to know math. And so we combined the academic standards with the career technical education standards. And as a result of that, our career technical education students performed better on the national test than the other students did.
See, look how it works. See,
yeah,
when you combine life skills, you get common sense.
Right.
Then you can work out your math problems.
Yeah, and then finally, I want to say that another thing we did was, for the first time, we required that kids have a half year of economics, where our intent was that they would learn those kind of life skills, balancing your checkbook, don't fall for scams and all of that.
Yeah, necessary.
We added that requirement for them.
So here's the thing, where you guys missed the mark though, is now it's every single trade. In the old days, it was like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and mechanics that needed vocational or technical learning. Now it's everything. It's framing, it's roofing, it's concrete, it's masonry, it's everything, because all the old Hispanics are getting old. All the old white people that taught all the old Hispanics are all too old to work. And we don't have any generation of Americans coming up that know how to do it. And most of the first generation Hispanics born here also don't want to do it. And you can't import your way out of losing these skills. we have to truly start pushing kids towards what it looks like they'd be good at. Again,
Well,
I'm not going to have a linebacker be a long distance runner, and I'm not going to have a long distance runner be a linebacker on a football team. We have to start developing these kids young and figure out what it looks like they could be good at and kind of give them a push. Otherwise, in the future, I'm sorry, robots aren't going to build houses in the future. I'm sorry, that doesn't work that way.
yeah, as I had mentioned, I did limit it to those skills for which the business people told us there was a market in the future.
They didn't know, though. They didn't know.
But
They didn't have a
since
crystal
then,
ball.
but let me say, since then, you're right, it's proliferated, and if I'm elected, we're gonna go back to the fundamental principles for career technical education that worked so well at that time.
We need to team up with all the contractors in the state to do this, to develop this.
Thank you very much. We got one more candidate to speak on this subject.
Everything they've said is extremely important. The single most important fact behind what they've said is the legislature is the place that all of these things have to be approved. There have to be bills to deal with more vocational or any of the topics that they talked about. I, as a legislature, it's tough to say, will work with them. We'll do everything we possibly can. I'll also want to mention that we have, the last legislature put a law in place that says if the federal government is overreaching, and it's unconstitutional, we don't have to do it. That might be a good way to deal maybe with the overreach on lunch programs. I don't know, it has to be investigated. But the bottom line is the legislature runs this state. They all do what we agree to do for them in terms of the various agencies. I'm totally supportive of what they're saying. I'll go even beyond that, although I can't do anything about it. Say, I wish we still had the draft for men and women, not necessarily on the front lines, mind you, but 2 years of service to the country. Okay, that's enough.
All right, thank you very much. We want to thank the candidates for taking the time to be here with us live and virtually, and the times that you guys have been here also. And that we really appreciate you coming to Quartzsite, taking the time to speak to us, to educate us, and help us become more informed. Thank you very much for your time. Let's give them all applause.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to take another 15-minute break here, and then we'll be having the debate on the town councils.
Scott Neely.
Yeah.
Scott Neely.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, folks leave. They're in. Who left? See the changing. And today.
Hey.
Ready?
Yeah. Trying to find a place that this can see everything.
Unless he's gonna talk first.
Yeah, she's trying to get on now.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right, if we could go ahead and take our seats, there's a couple of things we want to take care of before we start the town council debate here. One of the things is that people have asked, where can we vote? The polls for Quartzsite is here Tuesday morning. They open at 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you're looking for where the polls are, they will be right here. Also online, we have Leslie White, who's joined us, and she's here to talk about, and we're going to give her 15 minutes to talk to us about if you want to be a poll worker, how you go about doing that. And we're glad to have her here. Leslie, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Lisa. My name is Leslie, and I work for an organization called Citizens Renewing America. And it's an organization, it's about America First policies, but we can't do any American First policies unless we have election integrity in place in the state of Arizona. And I have been trying to get in contact with somebody in La Paz County, and it was Lisa that rang me back. And so I am so grateful that I've made contact with you. Yes, we definitely want to have Republican poll workers, and we also want to have Republican poll observers in place going into the general election. I don't know, Gary, how many folks you have right now in regards to poll observers. Can you kind of give me a heads up on that?
I don't have a complete number. Do we have any here that are poll observers? We have one. Do you know of any others that are poll observers currently?
Yeah. Lori, I don't know Lori.
So two?
Yeah, I'm the early guy.
Before the general, we will make sure that we have more than two.
Yeah, and the reason why is I'm working with a number of different groups here in Arizona because freedom's a team sport. And we have done yeoman's work to get poll observers in place. And let me tell you two reasons why it's so critical. My experience last week, I played the role of being a poll observer. And I live in Maricopa County in Phoenix, and there was an open spot to be a poll observer in the mosque, the Islamic mosque here in Phoenix. I've never been in a mosque, and I wanted to see the mosque itself, but I also wanted to find out how the operation is going. So being a poll observer, what you do is you really just observe what's happening with how people are being processed to vote. Are they showing ID? Are the poll workers being cordial with them? Are they doing the correct steps? Are they putting the ballots in the ballot box, or are they putting them in their own little pocket, as I call it? So you just stand back and you observe. And there's only one person that you can talk to when you're a poll observer, and that's the inspector who runs the whole gamut, the entire operation. So I walked in and I noticed immediately there were some issues. There was a safety concern to me because when you go into a mosque, there is carpet, and there's a red carpet, and then they had carpet over that, which you could walk on. First of all, that's a safety hazard. Ding. The second thing that really alarmed me was it was about 5 o'clock, and the poll closed at about 6 o'clock, and it was last week. And all of a sudden, I saw all these people that came in to pray. So we have a live voting situation going on here, and we have people that have come into the mosque to pray. That can't happen. That just can't happen. That's a conflict. You don't know what's going to happen in regards to voter fraud. voter integrity, everything. And so in the position of being a poll observer, I wrote up a little document and I sent it off to the RNC who handles all of this stuff. So just being there as the poll observer and seeing, first of all, there's a safety hazard with that rug. Anybody could trip on that, trip, flip, fall, you're gonna have a lawsuit. The other one was having live voting during a period of time in which people come in and actually pray in the mosque. That's a conflict of interest. So I wrote up a report, I sent that. Second thing that happened on Friday, which I thought was fascinating. So I go into this location, it's a church. They were surprised to see me. Took them 30 minutes to find a sign-in sheet for me. They are more surprised that I was a Republican. So that means A, no Republican has ever been there to do observation during voting. So I startled them. So I go in the corner, that's where I sit. And then all of a sudden I start to smell this food. So there's somebody in the kitchen in a church making food for people. I'm like, that's great. There's a lady in there for about 3 hours just baking up a storm. She walks out and she shares with me, hey, would you like to have some lunch? So me thinking it was a church and they were making lunch for everybody, I said, you know what, I already have plans. I'm going to sneak out, just refill my iced tea, and then I'll come back. But thank you so much. I'm sure there's other people here that would love to have a nice hot lunch. So I come back, it's about 1 o'clock. Then she yells really loud, okay, lunch is on. So all the poll workers walked in and they picked up their lunch. Then they went back to their workstation and they started eating at their workstation this lunch. In the corner of my eye, I saw something dangling from this woman's arm. This woman was really a poll worker, meaning that she was being paid by the county of Maricopa County to be a poll worker, not to be a resident chef, but to be a poll worker. So I got there, this is a true story. I got there at 9, I left at 7. And there was not one time during that period of time in which she did any activities to be a poll worker. So I came back, 8 o'clock, wrote up a little report and sent that on to our folks, the lawyer. First of all, it's a derelict of duty. Second of all, it's a waste of money that we're paying somebody to make lunch for everybody, and she's supposed to be working the polls. And more importantly, what I'm seeing here is a wasted money. We have hired so many people to be poll workers. I'm looking at Maricopa County alone for the primary and the general elections, about $25 million. And on election day, we're going to have about 212 open locations for voting. So as a poll observer and as a taxpayer, I have seen some things that I don't think are right or kosher. So we want as many poll observers out there to really find out what's going on in these polling centers. So I have a question. In La Paz, how many early voting locations are there? And then how many locations will be open on election day? And Lisa or Gary, if you can tell me that, that would be helpful.
I can't give you an exact number, but Parker will have, I'm not sure how many they have. We only have one here in Quartzsite. It's based on obviously the number of voters that we have.
Yeah.
I'll try to find that out for you, Leslie, and get that back to you.
Okay.
One of the things I would like you to cover though in your time too is I've got people here who are saying, I want to be a poll worker. How do I make that happen?
So here's the deal. Is your county right now hiring people to be poll workers? That's one question if you go out to the website. The other question is, Hal is the chair of the Republican Party there. He has the opportunity to get a list of names and provide those names to the county recorder in La Paz County about Republicans who should be poll workers, and we should have a preference.
Okay. I will take that action item and make sure that happens.
Yeah, that's really important. What happens is there's a period of time, and that period of time is coming up pretty quick. So I believe it's the week of the 8th, August 8th, that every one of the county chairs are going to have to submit to their county names of Republicans who want to work and get paid for working. And I got to tell you, we want to have Republicans in these vote centers. Generally, what should happen is it should be even. We should have just as many Republican paid workers as Democratic paid workers. What has happened here in some cases is that they don't get enough names, so they go out and they hire temporary employees. Well, it's good to be a temp, but the fact of the matter is we need to have Republicans that are in those vote centers that are the eyes and the ears for truth and honesty and justice. And they can't be overfilled with Democrats. Now, La Paz County, for the most part, has more registered Republicans than Democrats. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gary.
You're correct.
Okay, but you know what? We want to make sure that our voice is there. We want to make sure that we're present there. This is the first time that I have been a poll observer in Arizona. I finished my 11th session yesterday, and I got to tell you, I've learned a boatload. And I talked to Gina Swobodo, who I'm working hand in hand with. We need to revise our elections. You know, 2020 came, and we still have some opportunities for improvement. I'm going to say a ton of opportunities for improvement, but unless you're there, you don't know. And so I'm going to ask Gary and Lisa to get as many people, you know, raise their hand, give their names to you to be poll workers in La Paz County. We want the Republican Party to be present everywhere, especially when, I don't know where you do your voting, the tabulation. Is there a certain place where you do all the tabulation? I don't know your systems exactly, Gary or Lisa.
Bob, can you answer that?
What was that?
As far as I know, when the votes are cast here in this building, they're taken to a tabulation machine which stands independent. It's not connected to anything. Then the chip and the ballots are transported to Hardt.
Yes.
If I may, maybe I should go to the microphone.
And while he's coming up, I just want to say at the end of this, come up and see me, name, address, phone number, email, and we'll get you the information on making sure we get you in by August 8th.
And Gary, we're going to have training here in Phoenix next week, next Saturday on the 6th. I can send you information. However, if that date on Saturday does not work, I will work with Gina Swobodo and we will get you the training that is needed.
Very good. I'll be at that training and my wife will too on the 6th.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, okay? I can add something here. I've been very involved in Mojave County. What you have when you deal with an election is you have poll observers and poll workers at the precinct election site. The ballots are basically counted at the election site, and they are then sent to your director of elections in your county. His name is Richard, I forget his last name.
Richard Garcia.
Richard Garcia. And the ballot counting site is where the ballots are physically counted race by race by race. What you have poll workers and poll observers in the precincts, the temporary part-time employees are in the ballot counting site. And there are really, and this is one of the things really aggravates me, the election rules manual issued by Katie Hobbs is silent on ballot counting site rules and how they hire employees. I have no fear and no problem that in either Mojave County or La Paz County, good people are hired, okay? But I'm telling you right now, it's a problem in a great state of Maricopa. I also want to emphasize that I have spoken to the chairman of the Mojave County Republican Central Committee, and you can help me, I think, with this. I spoke to somebody here my last time She's the wife of a judge. Can that trigger a name? Here, judge here. I'm sorry.
That is his last name.
I'm sorry.
His last name is Kelly.
Okay. In any event, she asked me if there was any interest in Mojave County and La Paz County coming together so that we have a Republican Party presence, an official one, in La Paz County. And she said they were interested. I've talked to Jeannie Kent. She's interested, but I'm serious. To go to your point, the reality is I don't think there is anybody in a Republican position that goes to you or will produce an official list to you. I'm not aware of it.
We're in the process of reorganizing that now. The county already has the names that have been submitted to be committee members. And first week in October will be a time to elect the chairman, first, second, third secretary. So we're on that stuff. We're going to make sure that happens.
So you're going to form your own La Paz County Republican Central Committee.
Yes.
Very good. That's what I needed to hear. Thank you. And I'm sorry if I interrupted something.
Yeah, you're fine. Thank you.
So Leslie, we'll get it. Thank you very much. Leslie, we'll get a list to you, or I'll get a list to you of those names and to the, I'll get that to the county officials too. We'll contact, Bob will contact Cal for me and we'll get that all straightened out so we can get as many workers as we can for November. I didn't realize the date was August 8th for the deadline. So that will be a #1 priority. All right.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. You learn a lot of stuff.
Yes.
One of the things,
Yes.
one of the things I've learned though, when you show up, people get nervous. They're gonna do their job better.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, Leslie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Get ready for the debate now for town council. We changed the format a little bit. We realized that in what we were doing, that the person on the very end, either end, whichever end we started, either everything was already said, or they had lots of time to come up with an answer that the first one didn't. So we've changed the format just a little bit. We've talked it over with the candidates. They've all agreed. And the rules will be this. Each candidate will be given one question. There are 3 categories, and the categories are how you see the future of Quartzsite. The second category is your role in the town council. And the third is concerns out of headlines. There's 8 questions for each, so everyone will have a chance for the questions. The questions will be shuffled so we make sure that it's completely random which question they get. First person will get the first question. They have 3 minutes to answer that question. They have the option on their own to answer that question, or they can veer off into another area if they so choose. At the end of that time, all the rest of the candidates will be asked, would you like to speak to that question? If they do, they will each that raises their hand have 3 minutes, but they will not be able to veer off into another area. They will need to stay on the subject of the question asked. And if they do, I will just simply say, thank you, and it's time to move on to the next question. Our timekeeper, Bob, has volunteered to be our timekeeper. When you hear one, thank you very much, Bob, for all that you're doing. And by the way, he is very, very involved in what Leslie was talking about with the Republican committee here for La Paz, and doing a ton of work on this stuff. He's the timekeeper. It will, when you hear one bell, that means you've got 1 minute left. When you hear 2 bells, time is up. All right. We're going to start off with the first category and the first question. We're going to go ahead and start off on this end. Let me shuffle these up just a little bit. Let's do the introductions. Let's go down the line first. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me of that. You want to start here? Just give us real quickly in a minute, just name what you're running for. Make sure you tell us if you're a write-in or not. And
Robert St. Germain, also known as Gunny in town. I'm running for a 2-year council seat as a write-in. Glad everybody came out. Just encourage everybody to vote. I would appreciate your vote, but vote with your heart. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Freese, and I'm running as a write-in for 4 years on council. Again, thanks everybody for coming out. And I agree with Gunny, vote your heart.
Pauline O'Mara, I'm a 2-year person. And as you can see, I get tongue-tied. Anyway, I'm glad that you folks chose out of your day, you saw the priority of learning more about us so that you were making a smart choice in your voting. And I hope that we are able to influence you and help you in that decision. I hope to do my part. Thank you so very much for being here.
All right, I'm Dennis Fosper. I'm running as a 2-year write-in candidate for town council. Been in Quartzsite a little over 4 years now. Background, I run the local radio stations here in town. Strict constitutionalist, and I would encourage you not only to vote with your heart, but to vote in accordance with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution itself. Thank you.
Always Dennis there. Hi, everyone. How you doing? My name's Devin Rosner. I'm running for a 2-year position with the town council. I just want to thank you all for being here. I moved here a few years ago, and the business I run is Patty's RV and Propane. I've fallen in love with the town, and I've really enjoyed my time here, and I plan to, stay here and, help the town as much as I can. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sam Saxton, running for a 4-year write-in for the council. I'm actually currently on council, was seated in January 15th, been on there since. Appreciate your vote. I'm a local business owner, father of 6. Have figured out what causes all of that. Got that part figured out, but no, do vote for your heart, but vote as a patriot. And I believe we have most patriots here today, but definitely look for your vote in the next election.
Randy Smith, and I'm running for 4 years, and I'm already on the ballot. And I'm a veteran, and I've lived in Quartzsite for 8 years, and I hope you vote.
At the end, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to make a closing statement, so you will have time again to speak on that. First category that we're going to be covering is, how do you see Quartzsite and its future? Quartzsite is a unique and wonderful place to live. As we have seen throughout the country, small towns either grow and develop, or they dry up. They never seem to stay the same. To that end, the following questions are to see how you see Quartzsite and how you see its future. Question number 1, and we're going to start on this end, is the 2020 census shows a decline in our population. How do you see Quartzsite in 5 years, 10 years, and how, as a town council member, will you work to that end? You'll have 3 minutes.
How do I see Quartzsite in the future? Right now, stagnant. But I want it to move forward. I want to see businesses come to town, small businesses. We don't have to start with something major. And we need housing for people who work those businesses. Right now, you go to most of these small businesses we have in town, they're from Blythe, they're from Parker. So we don't have the employees. We need to do something for our young people. Start scholarships. Send them off to college. Guarantee they come back, they're going to have to work here a minimum of 2 years in the profession that they chose. So, I mean, we have opportunities to grow. Our census did drop 1,000. I've heard every excuse from, well, the census takers didn't go out. It was COVID. Bottom line is, a lot of people moved out of Quartzsite. A lot of people have moved out of Quartzsite. We got a lot of empty houses. The housing market's doing good. It's actually up there now at the interest.
Would any of you speak to this question? All right.
I think it is an issue, it is a problem that we're facing. And for so long, it has been the snowbirds coming down, and we've seen them as our source. And that's good. We've seen the people with the vendors, so forth and so on, they come and they bring in money and they bring in, and it's a great time. It's a fun time. We see, well, we one time saw a couple 100,000. I don't believe there was near that many this last year. Matter of fact, a lot of the vendors said it was a bad year last year. So we've got to do something to turn that around, not just rely on the snowbirds. And I've heard some different ideas. One of those ideas is let's bring in something, maybe a small type business, a small type maybe manufacturing or training. One individual said, you know what, it would be great to have a training that did side-by-side training. You know, I think that's a great idea. How to work on your side-by-side, how to do, you know, there's some ideas there that can be explored. And basically, we've got to formulate and encourage you and the people that live in Quartzsite. What ideas do you have? What ideas are out there? And then to make it economical, feasible for you to be able to pursue those ideas, however way we can. And so that's my thinking on it. We've got to change the dynamics, and we've got some housing here right now. We need better housing, more housing, but we got to bring in the younger people too. The average age is what, 72? We got to bring in some younger people. A lot of times the people that have been raised here, they go off, they go to Phoenix or they go to California. We've got to have something here to encourage the local people to stay. And it's not going to be a quick fix, but we're going to have to put our caps on and we're going to have to think about it. And I've worked in the technology field for quite a few years. We've done, you know, I saw a lot of companies start up and work with a lot of companies, high-tech companies. We have one company in Wyoming that did the brunt, and I was the national sales manager for them. And we had, believe it or not, the fine stuff that was done by elderly women, because they're better with their hands, not elderly guys. Forget the guys' fingers. But the elderly women, they were able to sit there and put things together. And it was only a company of 20, 30 people. So there's things that can be done. We just need to find and encourage them to come and why they should come.
Thank you very much.
First of all, if we are having a hard time existing in the summer, and our population has dropped significantly, not just.
Just for a second. I don't want to take it from your thought. No, you're fine. I just wanted to, the question again is, how do you see Quartzsite 5 to 10 years now? We're looking for visionary, what you see.
Visionarily wise, the number of people that we have here that are seniors, 93% of our population is over the age of 69. We wouldn't have maybe had that drop. People are electing to leave. So I would want to have people stay. I would want to have more people coming in, especially our younger and our families, if we could meet their needs. But if our town stinks during the summer because of lack of activity, because of buildings that have not been refurbished or torn down so that we have the property to rebuild something new on it, how are these young people, these families that come into our town, going to want to stick around if they see dead zone in the summer because the snowbirds are gone? We need to have something cooking in the summer. We need to liven it. We don't have to spend gazillions of money, but we do need to fix our main street. We need to make our town come alive again. We need to offer something for those seniors that are taken out of town or they leave because they can no longer survive here without having access to services. A long-term care facility. That's what I like to see in 5 or 10 years, and it'll take that long for something like that to happen. A long-term care facility so that those are living here, that have friends here, that know you, that don't want to leave, but their families want them to go to Michigan or someplace. They can stay here, you can still visit them, and they can be here the rest of their time. They don't have to leave. And we can encourage other seniors, other people we'll at least have a facility for those folks. But we need to also look at the town, the makeup of Main Street. We have luck. That's it, right? 1 minute. Oh. You'd think by the third or fourth try at this, I could get the hang of it. What can I say? I just want to see that this town flourishes. I want to see in 5 or 10 years that we are all so stinking happy with the way it has progressed, that we've all contributed to painting the building that looks like hell and refurbishing that cute little service station and making a little cafe out of it or something, making a little Western saloon or cafe, a little panning for gold thing. We need to have some themes going on that interest people to come in. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Sit down, Dennis. So my vision of Quartzsite, you kind of go everywhere because we have so many different groups of people. We've got a lot of silver-haired people. I'm not going to use that 3-letter word, old. But you guys aren't going to be here forever. So what we have to do is we have to pave the way for new things. One thing that I would like that I've not heard many people talk about is having homesteads. That is how Quartzsite was started, by homesteads. We have a food shortage. We have chains breaking down so that we can't get things that we need. Sorry, I won't kick the microphone stand here, but so people can bring their families to Quartzsite and set up a homestead. They can have a goat, they can have 15 chickens or whatever. We actually have ordinances right now in the town that do not allow this to the extent of what I believe should be allowed. And so my goal would be to take those ordinances out of pocket and throw them in the trash, so that people can come to Quartzsite and our stick can be come homestead with Quartzsite. You've got people that are my age that are looking for that. I promise you. People with children, and people that want to be able to go out in their backyard and pick up eggs for breakfast. You know, that kind of thing. That is, it's almost kind of crazy because it's becoming a fad, but almost out of necessity. But you have people that really do want a homestead, and I believe Quartzsite would be the perfect place for that. So when you have an influx of people that want a homestead, they're coming in here for a long time. They're coming in here to set up. They'll usually have children, right? So now we have to have a better school. 1 minute. So my future thought of Quartzsite is year-round tourism. If you go to the gas stations anytime on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, you're lined up at a gas pump. So don't tell me that during the summer people don't travel. That's BS. But they're not coming into town for some reason. They're not coming to the local restaurants for some reason. As the town, I believe is our job or necessity for us to promote our local businesses, our local restaurants. So when people pull off, they don't just see McDonald's and Hardee's, but they see Taco Meal or Times 3 or whatever, and they know that they can go there and get a good cooked meal. So year-round tourism, homesteading, those are two things that I really want to hit on in projection of the future. Thank you.
Anything pending on this for this? Your vision for 5 to 10 years from now for Quartzsite.
All right. Quartzsite's at a crossroads. Again, Dennis Bosper right into here. I think Quartzsite is at a crossroads. You look at our history. We have a rich history here in Quartzsite, and that history should be preserved. So I think our town will always look a certain way. We'll always have the different shows. That's going to be our identity. But we need to look to the future because the World War II generation who built our town, the majority aren't here anymore. And their kids are here. I see a lot of the World War II generation kids. Here's some kids right here. And so we still have that identity we need to preserve moving forward. But some ideas, I agree with Sam, in addition to, so, I have 17 chickens against the town code, and I added 3 ducks. So take that, town code. goats are next. So anyway, so one of the issues we have, and we talked about it pretty extensively last week, is the issue of BLM and state trust land. Probably 95% of our town land is tied up, and that we do not have control over the land. So this week, the P&Z meeting that happened, so we were having an impact, I believe, in talking about these things, because 90% of that meeting was speaking of freeing that land up. Problem is, what they're talking about is more annexation. They're talking about more leasing land. If you don't know, our building right here that we're on, the entire park is leased from the BLM. We don't own the land as a town. One of the issues that we do have in the expansion is our water and sewer only goes out so far. So a good solution to this, and it ties right into the homesteads, and this is going towards what's called the earth ships. There's a gentleman in Taos, New Mexico, who started these back about the 1960s or 70s, building homes that are off grid. So we have massive areas that aren't hooked up to water and power and the sewer. So these facilities, a lot of them do cost a little bit of money. So we're going to be bringing in higher folks that have more money to the region and taking our off-grid areas. So they take rainwater completely off-grid. So this is a bastion of freedom that Quartzsite is just one aspect. And there's other areas I'd like to get into as well, but don't have the time. But this one in particular, Quartzsite can be known again as that homestead, and these things appeal not only to younger people, but to older people. The gentleman that does these earth ships is in his late 70s now, and there are many people who are doing this. So that's, if you would like no HVAC bill in your summer or winter time, this is a direction to consider. But that can take our lands, we can build on it and expand our tax revenue and bring more people to town and be a bastion of freedom in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any candidates like to speak to this question? Okay, we'll move on to the second question. Okay. Some of these questions you're going to find are overlapping of some of the things they've already said, but new business is always critical for growth. So how do you feel we can find ways to bring new business in? It's a balancing act while still assuring that the existing businesses continue and grow. That's a great question. And part of it goes back to the BLM land. And a couple of weeks ago, those that were here actually challenged. We had Leo and Sonny was here at the time. I challenged them, what would they do to help get our land from BLM within our city limits? Leo came up to me here about a week ago, or was he here last week? Maybe it was, okay. He came up to me and he says, if you get elected, I may not. So those of you that are on the council, he says to me, he says, he talked to Sonny and he had talked to Paul Gosar, and they are excited to help Quartzsite get this land freed up so we quit leasing. I mean, that's just silly. That's renting. Everybody knows that when you rent, what happens? We never own it. We got to own the land. Once we own the land, then we can go from there. We can free up. We can bring in businesses. We can. There's plenty of people that have been involved in entrepreneur type ideas. Some of us have had strong technical background, and I've had good friends that were CEOs of companies and still are. And there's offshoots of those companies that they can come in and bring in, and not 100 people, but 20 people, 15 people. Be able to start small, be able to get the land, be able to start there, be able to get other land freed up, to be able to build some homes, be able to put seniors that need to get a few hours a week in, be able to work with that, and then also bring in new families. It has to happen. I like the ideas that you guys brought up about the homestead. I grew up on a ranch in Wyoming, and I was raised around cattle and horses, and don't feed me chickens. Okay, I don't like chickens. You like mine? No, I wouldn't. No, I don't like chicken. Yeah, I pastor the Open Bible Church, or not the Open Bible, but the Assembly of God Church, and everybody knows that. Keep me away from chicken. I like beef, and that's all I got to say about that.
Okay, the question again. Thank you very much. The question is, again, is how do you feel you can bring new business while assuring that existing businesses continue and grow?
A idea that I have, I mean, this is a wide area that can be done here, but main issue here is getting back to the idea that governments don't create jobs. That's the bottom line. Governments get out of the way to allow entrepreneurs to work. So we have a few things in our way in this town. For example, business permits to get started to build a business are much higher here than they are in big cities. So our permit fees are pretty expensive. Talk to any business owner that's done any expanding here, and it's expensive. We need to figure out a way to get the fees lowered. A key area that I focused on in 2020 election I ran, and I think this is a good idea still, and that is zero business license and zero business permit to get started. So go on the map and go on a national campaign to advertise that Quartzsite is here to do business again. And we won't charge you a cent to get your license or your permit. Just ask that you get it, you pay your taxes. So this is going to get us national exposure. I believe we'd probably end up with national television getting on board. We'll be the only town in America that I'm aware of where you can get started for nothing. And there's the cost issue that always comes up. There's about 86, last I checked in 2020, was $84,000 in fees that come in from the business licenses. So the amount of business that we would get from the additional businesses and the additional tax revenues from those businesses would far exceed. And I would say that there are other areas we could cut. Not to be a mean jabber, but I know our town manager does have a large salary. We're kind of upper echelon. Our upper management is paid, I think, a little too high. We could cut that out, and with the additional revenues, more than cover the sales tax loss from those licenses. But the biggest thing is it's going to encourage more people to come here. If you're able to tell people to come to Quartzsite because we're serious about doing business. So that's just one aspect. And I think also encouraging a restructuring of Main Street. Okay, 1 minute. The gentleman that had the Ham Staples, he had the UTV rental. And what he suggested was taking Main Street and converting it back down to two large lanes and one large center lane, and having parking all along both sides of the street again. Slow the speed limit down to 25. Get people to slow down. You got plenty of parking. And then have the town, which manages the street itself, create the theme of the street going back towards, you go to Old Town in San Diego, you go to little places, they have these Main Street themes. And you do that, you're going to make the property values along Main Street more valuable. And then those rundown shacks that Colleen was referring to as well, the things that aren't painted, you're bringing value to those business owners. Would be foolish not to invest. And that's going to encourage those businesses to go. And those businesses that are already here will benefit because there's more places to park and more people stopping.
How do we do that balance to make sure that we're bringing in new business while assuring in the process we don't deplete the businesses who are already here?
The last thing we want to do is bring in a Walmart and crush our two local grocery stores. We don't want to do that because those are our local people and it's a national chain. Right? That's what I thought. But I am on the same board as Dennis. Government doesn't create jobs. We just give you a blank canvas. I believe if we market Quartzsite in the right way, we get rid of some ordinances, give some tax breaks, and then we market ourselves, our town, to corporations who we think will kind of be along the same wavelength as us. Tell them we're open for business. Tell them we're ready to be partners with you, because at the end of the day, if we don't have new businesses coming in at all, you're stagnant. But we do want to be careful that we don't push out local businesses. But we also want to be smart. I do know that California is trying to get all of their 18-wheelers, semi-trucks to be electric. It's pretty crazy, but it's true. So we could have a transfer station because the rest of the United States still has their brain. They're going to switch over to diesel at some point, right? We could have a transfer station here, but that's going to take a lot of land. Got to get rid of that BLM tag, right? That has locked up. I believe that is the chokehold on Quartzsite. And we really need to liberate ourselves of this BLM land, grow organically, and then market ourselves. We haven't marketed. We've marketed our town as a snowbird town. And so that's what we are, right? There's nothing wrong with that. We can still be a snowbird town. We love the snowbirds. Keep coming. Watching live, keep coming. But we also need year-round revenue. There are things that are happening during the summer. I mean, there was a great concert just Friday night. There was 90 people there at the concert. Go Isaac. Yeah, Isaac Saxton. Shout out. So there are things that are happening in town that don't normally happen. I know when I first got here 3.5 years ago, even all the churches shut down during the summertime. I had never seen that happen. Not all of them. Not all of them. The Alliance stayed open. Quartzsite Southern Baptist Church stayed open. Several have stayed open, but vast majority of them closed their doors. That's because they're Snowbird Church. And it's kind of a perpetual thing. We have to change the paradigm, our mindset of what our town really is. And is it going to be one thing, or can it be many things? I believe it can be many things and accommodate everyone at the same time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak to this question? Again, how do we bring in new business while keeping the existing businesses going?
Well, I agree with everything they have said, but there is the senior center that is open a couple of days a week, I believe, for lunches. If I wanted to schedule a dance for this next Saturday, I could do it, no problem. But I couldn't do it on a Saturday in November because that's when they do bingo. Well, if I can do something on Saturday now, then why aren't they doing bingo on Saturdays now? So we need to utilize what we do have. I don't know if that's exactly answered the question, but I mean, we need to get creative and plan some ideas that we can add more things. It's good to have these concerts that Sam was mentioning, but something else, we need to do more. We need to have maybe the churches can get together in their council and discuss taking on monthly activities that are for the public. One church does an activity, maybe another church puts on a dance, but they alternate sponsoring an activity for our community. That's one idea, but.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak to how we keep?
There's lots of complex, Devin Rosner again, there's lots of complex points that can go into bringing new business and making commerce thrive in a community. But I'd like to bring it back to the simple, which is me moving here as a 24-year-old and becoming a business owner. I've seen nothing but government harassment and being targeted while providing zero incentives to live here. It's very rare that I meet someone my own age. And so I think that this question really does have to do with government and making sure we have a pro-business government and a very happy and friendly community as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I agree with everything everybody said, and I would like to get younger people to come here, like what Devin said. But one thing I don't agree with is this Main Street thing. I remember how Main Street was when we only had the 2 lanes. It was constantly congested in snowbird time, 8-9 years ago. You couldn't get down Main Street. It took like an hour. If you didn't know the back roads to get down Moon Mountain to Quail Trail and all that stuff, you're stuck in traffic forever. And I don't think anyone's going to park on Main Street. I think an answer to that is to get the Camelback Express to run a bus in the wintertime up and down Main Street so people can take it, so they can park down by McDonald's or you park down by Wriggles. And if they want, they can catch the bus. That just goes back and forth like this. Maybe stops in a couple of places like Silly House or something, or by McDonald's or whatever. And then you don't have to squish the street again. I think that would be a mistake.
Thank you very much.
Gunny again. What we have to do is attract business we don't already have. We got small businesses in town, let's keep them. Let's bring in small businesses, but let's make it, a tourist trap, if you want to call it. People stop here for fuel. Going to California, a whole lot cheaper. Coming out of California, it's a whole lot cheaper. But what do they have to do when they stop? Sometimes they want to stretch their leg because they're driving to Phoenix or Flagstaff, or they're going into San Diego. So we got to have something to attract them. You know, we got to have that. A good one was the gold mining. You travel through the eastern and south of the United States, there's mines everywhere. You can get the kids out there, do panning, they find crystals and all kinds of rocks. They have a ball. It's an attraction. It's a good business. As far as, you know, we're looking toward the future, if we got a greenhouse to come in, hydroponics, we're not wasting water, we're recycling the water for the plants. How many people around here love to landscape their yards? You know, we have opportunities here. We just have to sell Quartzsite. Four-wheeling is going to be the future. ATVs out there. So we got to have repairmen. We're going to have parts. We're going to have a shop. I really don't want a big brand name to come in. I'd rather have a hometown guy put in a small business that he can grow. And maybe we can get some of these younger kids, do an apprenticeship there, how to fix them, how to work on them, how to care for them. You know, it's a great thing that we have. We have the opportunities ahead of us. We just have to grab one. We have to sell Quartzsite to the outside world to bring them in. Once we start bringing the businesses in, we can't give them a tax break on their property, on the land. That's all controlled by the county. The county gets everything. We don't get anything. But again, the ordinances, the permits, we can get rid of quite a bit of that and make it available, as Dennis said, to bring the people in, and they'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next question is, when others think of Quartzsite, what are some of the qualities and some of the things you would like them to see Quartzsite as? Right now, Quartzsite is known as the rock capital of the world. What else would we like to see Quartzsite as? Like to speak to that? Any one of the candidates, and that will be their main question.
Sam Saxton, stand up. Funny. You know, I tried it for knee implants. They didn't do any good. I'm kidding. So, what was the question again? Dennis got me all over.
When others think of Quartzsite, what do we want them to visualize Quartzsite as? What would we want to project out there to the rest of the world?
Well, first of all, they need to know we're here. Apart from moving here 4 years ago, I didn't know that Quartzsite was even on the map. So, marketing, 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 marketing. What are we going to market? And that's the answer to the question. We're going to market that we're still a small town. We are a small town. And then, but what I mean by small town is hospitality. We just went on a whirlwind trip up through Tennessee, back down to Louisiana and back around. I'm still jet lagged from it, but what I always remember is people, the way they treat me at the gas stations, at the local businesses, and all of that. Are they friendly or are they not? Are they mad that I came in their business? You know, we've had that, you know, but what we want to do is we want to project that Quartzsite still has the big heart. We're like a big family, even though we don't agree on everything. Well, I'm one of 6 kids, right? And not one of us 6 kids raises our kids all the same, but we're still a family. And we can create a community like that. Just because we don't agree on everything, we still get along and we still be a big, happy community family. I think that's the thing is market Quartzsite is the heartbeat of Western Arizona. And come on, we're open for business and come homestead with us. I think it's all marketing.
Anybody else like to speak with us? Thank you.
Yeah, Richard Freese. You know, they brought a couple ideas, and I think they're good ideas, personally, in my idea, but you know. I was looking out at Nancy out there, and I know she does some really neat things with rocks and with the wire wrap and everything else. And I thought, why don't we have a community shop here in the summertime where the different artists, and she's also an artist, she's a fantastic artist and painter. Why don't we have something local for some of the people to get in and have a local shop down here, one of these businesses that are closed up in the summertime, and have a opportunity for people to sell their goods. Art mall, yeah, exactly. I don't know, that's just a thought that popped up in my head, and I think it was a good thought.
The other thing too is that we have, as he's already alluded to, we have a lot of artists and crafters and hobbyists here in this town. A lot of us, because what else is there to do during the summer when we have nothing? Okay, we're good customers for Amazon or Walmart in terms of our supplies, but I mean, where do we go to sell our stuff? They are expecting us to have a license. That license costs $50, and we maybe sell one time a month. There needs to be a change in that. And the vendors that used to have, what was it, like thousands of vendors that took up 20 acres or more of vending things. I remember it was either Look or Life magazine. And I remember thinking, and this was like in '69, I believe, I wanted to go here so bad because that looked like so awesome. And it shrunk to next to nothing. And they still every year are threatening like they're not going to come back because they keep getting jacked up every year. We got to change that. So that's one thing that I want to be voting on and hopefully getting support from everybody. But the idea that Robert brought up about the a consortium, okay, you know who he is. I was thinking you both, Robert. I'm using my time. Forget that. Pastor Lee's here. Anyways, so we need, in terms of, and there I go screwing up my train of thought. Here I am. I'm an art major. We need to do something for the artists in this town, and I totally agree with what you said. But we also need to support them. And the crafters are being lumped as vendors, and they ain't. It's not listed in that thingamajiggy in the code. And I still have, it's not listed. It's not, they don't spell out that a vendor is a crafter or a hobbyist. It just says vendors. So we should not have to be paying that licensing.
Dennis Fosfer again, to your right in. I would like Quartzsite to be known as the town that protects your inalienable rights.
Yeah.
Be one of the only towns in America that does that. So not only protect your inalienable rights, but also protect your business rights, your property rights. And if we have that environment, people are going to flock here. In addition, I mean, the rock theme, I like, and as doing the radio stations, of course, I like the idea of being the rock capital in a different sort of way. I think we could bring more music back. And for those who have been here a number of years, I mean, we go back, Cookie, you probably remember, we had, I mean, Roy Clark. It was not uncommon to have very big stars stop and perform here at the local restaurants. Now, we'll have to create a very specific new idea with that, because again, what we had is never going to come back to what it was. So moving forward, it's creating in the people's minds what we're known for. So rocks, we're always going to be known for the shows. We're always going to be known for, we need to be known, I think we get for music. We're a mecca. We're right in between LA and Phoenix. And so there's a lot of potential for people. And but primarily, I think if we're known for a place where you can come and be free, where you can be who you are. And I like what Sam said. My experience when I was truck driving, I got into Tennessee as well. And I remember I'm waiting for my order, and this black waitress is singing, and she's bringing me my food. I'm like, where am I? This is such an incredible place, but very friendly. I think, you know, for the most part, people are very friendly here. There are some grumpy pants people, and, you know, you'll know who they are. But I think getting back to being, again, friendly, welcoming, and a place where freedom and unalienable rights are protected will be a magnet for the world. Thank you. Due to time constraints, I'm going to move on to the next category, but we want to start with those who have not got their initial question yet. And your role, the second category is your role in town council. Our town council in its role to best serve the government of Quartzsite have to make decisions that are not always easy and not often clear to the citizens. The following questions are designed to see how your view as a role of the town council is. So who's ready? Who hasn't been asked an initial question yet? Because I think we got out of line a little bit. Why don't we start on that end? Your question is, how do you see your purpose as a role in the town council?
I'll take a second.
Take a pause.
Well, since I've never been on the town council, it's kind of difficult for me to say. I'd say my role is someone who's supposed to protect the town and make the town better and to encourage people to like go to the meetings and go to participate and to help with the budget and all that stuff, and to decide where the money needs to be spent. And in doing so, I have to get out there and listen to everybody to hear what you think, how the money should be spent and where the money should be spent and what should be built up and what should not be built up in town. So that way, when I go to town council, I can say, well, everybody I talk to feels this way and that way. That's how I feel.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak to that question? How do you see your role and purpose as a member of the town council?
I have no idea. No, I'm kidding. January 15th, I was seated. I've learned a lot and there's still ounces of knowledge to learn. But what I have learned is when something comes up that throws off that patriot radar, I like to call it, meaning, oh, that doesn't sound right. Sounds like government's overstepping. That's where we step in as a council. We should step in, and say, that's not right. Let's get rid of that ordinance completely, rescind that, and let the people be free. Let the people be what they should be. And being on council, you're kind of, it's kind of a not like anything I've ever been a part of either, because you are bumped up against, well, this is a law, because the ordinance is a law, it's a town law. And so you have to switch your thinking from a citizen to now I'm a council person and I can change this law or help change this law. So looking forward and being on council, it's one of those things where you say, I'm a part of government so that it can be a smaller part of our life, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I'm for smaller government is what I'm trying to say. And you know, I grew up in a very rural town. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Ringgold, Louisiana. My brother. That's good because he was pretty much born in Ringgold. But it was a town where if you needed a lean-to on your garage, you just go out there and you build it. If you needed electric run to it, you'd run electric to it without a permit. You didn't have to pay the government to be able to do something on your property. To me, that's not constitutional. Now, there needs to be checks and balances so people don't burn their shed down and their neighbors and then their neighbors. So there do need to be some checks and balances, but I'm all for the council being a freedom filter for the people.
All right, so I'd like to speak to this issue, your purpose and role on town council. First purpose is gatekeeper. So again, this goes back to the Declaration of Independence. What is that tells us what the primary purpose of government is. The primary purpose, first and foremost, is to protect your unalienable rights, the life, liberty, property, the pursuit of happiness. So pursuit of happiness, again, in the original understanding, was your ability on your own property to provide food, shelter, clothing for your family. So that means me having chickens is none of the government's business if I'm going to provide food for my family in such a manner. So I see myself as a guardian, a gatekeeper with the responsibility of making sure I defend and protect your rights. Right now, this never comes up. In the 4 years I've been here, I don't think the only time the Constitution's come up is when Sam's talked about it. Maybe a couple other times, but it is not a focal point. Most government today does not filter their decisions through that lens. It's not first and foremost concerned about your rights. It's concerned about the collective. So we've moved from the individualist mindset to the collectivist mindset. And that's antithetical to freedom. And so again, my role in that position is to protect your rights.
When we take on the role of town council, and we are going to these meetings, and we understand our responsibility. What I get today as my responsibility, as knowing what is in your best interest, what you have shared, and the responsibility I have of communicating with you what we are doing, what we are about, and getting your validation that we are on the right track. We are not supposed to go in there with some flaming sword thinking that we're going to do something specific. When we are told, I think we ought to have a industrial park out here and maybe we'll wipe out the BLM LTVA thingamajiggy, but that's okay. They can move further south or whatever. We've got to know whether this is something that you guys would hold to or not. There's got to be two-way communication. I have to be able to say, because we're supposed to research what it is that's proposed to us. We don't just sit there and blindly agree with whatever's proposed. Our responsibility is to read, discuss, and research what they are going to propose to us, what we are going to be expected to vote on and put into action. The other thing is, I want to see this code completely reorganized, dismantled, and rewritten. There are so many areas that are just not hitting the mark in terms of what we need in our town. And there you go.
Thank you very much.
I think one of the things, this is Richard Freese, writing for 4 years. I think one of the important things is less is more. In other words, less government is better than more government. There have been two theories of government. One has been less, and then you have the other one where government wants to perpetuate government. It becomes a beast upon itself, and before you know it, you've got this huge bureaucracy. And that's what's been going on in our nation, and that's what happens and goes on in our communities. We gotta have less. So it's our responsibility as council members, I believe, to protect you, protect me from government. I really do. Less is more.
As a council member, I am your voice. I have an open door policy. I did last time, 24/7. You can get a hold of me. You got a question, if I can't answer it, I'll find the answer. But what I don't like seeing on the council right now is how secretive they are.
Yes.
How many closed door sessions they have, executive sessions. It's so important with the town attorney sitting there texting. One of the meetings I went to, he spent 90% of the meeting texting. And they told me, oh, well, he's probably texting the councilman. I said, well, none of them were up there answering me. So we got to be open. We got to be honest. One of the things they just did, they passed the budget. Boom, just like that. If you read the tentative budget, there's a lot of unfunded items on that budget. The council, what did they cut back on? They reduced a sergeant to lieutenant, save money. And then 2 days ago on social media, guess what they were advertising for? Another officer. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with cutting somebody's pay so they can hire somebody else. when we waste so much money on town employees. Every job in the town has qualifications. If you do not feel that qualification, you should not have the job. There's going to be nepotism because it's a small community. That's understandable. But if the individual who gets hired for a position and cannot handle the job description, they shouldn't be hired. I mean, if I ran a business, I needed somebody, okay, I'm going to hire you. Can you lift 50 pounds by yourself? Sure. Can you lift 100 pounds with help? Sure. I'm not going to pick somebody who's 90 years old. I don't want the man to die. So they're not using common sense. Instead of raising the water rates and the sewer rates, and that is 30% of the town manager's salary, 30% comes from the water fund, 30% comes from the wastewater fund. And they just, of course, what they do, they raised our rates. Wouldn't give us a delay. But we need to be honest. We need to be open. If you got a problem, some people get intimidated in this town by some really not so nice people. They tried to intimidate me. I laugh. I'm not politically correct. I can't exactly say in public what I told them. It's because I don't have nice words that would replace what I told them. We got to stand up. We're standing up for the residents of Quartzsite. Thank you.
Hi, Devin Rosner again. Does anyone find it interesting that none of the current incumbents besides Sam Saxon are here tonight? I don't think that's a very good sign. I promise if I was in government, I'd be there for you and answering questions. Government, we've often seen it's become a cesspool of greed and pageantry. It's, steered away from its original purpose, which is to serve the people and their unalienable rights. So in my position in town council, I'll be there, I'll be open, and I'll be participating, and I'm for the people. Thank you.
I do want to just mention here before we go on that we did invite all town council members, incumbents, write-ins, ones who are on the ballot to come, and the ones who are not here, for the most part, declined to be here. They had the option to be here. Okay.
So in psychology in college, they brought up this test that was done. They took one psychology class to Alcatraz after it was shut down, of course. One half the class was supposed to be the inmates. The other half the class, the guards. I don't know if you guys have heard this. I think it's back in the 60s or something like that, when you could still do cool things like this. They had a week, I believe it was. And by the end of the week, classmates were beating their other classmates because of power. Reason I bring that up is because some people are not fit to be in places of government because it brings their mentality to a overlord. And so you have to be careful how you vote. And that is definitely not the place of our council. Our council, what was that? 1,000. I'm 4-year writing. Thank you. I lost my train of thought. But anyway, you get the idea. We're not here for power. We're not here for power. We're actually here to try to diminish the power so you guys can live free. And so can we. We're also citizens, right? We also have to deal with the ordinances that overstep. And so it is our job and our responsibility to make sure that your inalienable rights are protected, your freedom is protected, and that when big government comes knocking on our doors for mandates and bullcrap, you've got some bulldogs that are sitting on that dais that say, not in Quartzsite. That's our job.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. At town council meetings, citizens are given the opportunity to speak and bring up new issues. You fill out the form, your name is called, you get to say what you want to say. Though the council listens to what the issues are being brought up, On several occasions this last month, the issues were never added to the meeting agenda, nor did we hear how or if the council ever addressed these issues. So what can you as a town council member do to ensure that issues that are brought up by the citizens are examined and addressed? And what can you do to ensure that the communications on the response of the town council is fed back to the citizens?
This is one of my primary issues. I got my master's degree in social work. So advocating for people is what I have done for over 30 years. I was on 2 different multidisciplinary teams, both in an adult day healthcare center and in a home health hospice situation. I understand advocating for people. And what ticks me off the most is when somebody gets up and they have a very valid, pertinent question, and then crickets, because the council is not allowed to respond. Now that's one where he says, now, does anybody have a question? And then somebody will get up and they'll ask a pertinent question, and then they go back and sit down and nobody says a word. If they have written out the form and they do their little thingy, they might get a response, but they're supposed to then, if they choose, put it on the next month's or the next 2 weeks agenda. Don't know that always happens, but by jiggers, I don't like the fact that we cannot right then and there say something to that person, because my job is representing you, will be job. And I want to know what you're thinking, and I want us to have an open communication. That ain't open communication. I also hope, and I think we all would have access to a website or email or some crap or other. I just want to be able to respond to you, because that's what I see as the big responsibility. We're protecting you. We want to know what you want. And that's, by jiggers, that's what I'm all about. And that's what I want to do.
Kevin Rosner again. I just want to say that this is a very simple answer. Don't be corrupt. It's as simple as that. You know, they're not looking out for you up there on that town council. That's why they hide. That's why they're not being open about everything. You have to be open and honest and put honorable people in place of government. It's a public service to the people. That's part of why I'm donating my salary back. I don't even think people should make money up there. There's lots of wonderful people in the community who want to give their time to help everyone else out. And it's as simple as that. Be open and honest and be a good person. We're here to help the people.
I can speak to what Colleen was referring to. Being on council is a little frustrating sometimes, because when you do come up and you ask questions, the way our meeting, we don't follow Robert's rule of law, but the way our meeting is organized is so that we cannot converse back and forth with, let's say, well, Bob comes to the microphone and asks me a question. The reason for that we don't have that dialogue back and forth is because it can become quickly an argument between a councilman and the public, or vice versa. So it's to protect you and to protect us so that our meeting doesn't last 3 days long. But they do last long. But as a councilman, and as you know, I don't know if you've got my card, but I have my personal cell phone number on me. You can go to Quartzsite, whatever our website is. It's not quartzsite.com, but it should be, but it's not there. But you can go to the website and get our email address where you can see some public and ask us. I do wish that there was more meetings, kind of more like a town hall meeting, not a formal meeting, but where you mix and mingle with your council. And I think that needs to happen more, and not in a council meeting setting, but an open forum where you can walk around, almost like a meet the candidates thing. And that needs to happen more often. And I believe that that we can make that happen going forward. All it is a matter of the council saying this is what we want to do. So if we have enough council members that are up to talking to people in the public, then we can do that. But I do believe we need the town to tell us what is on your heart, what's your passion, what are your worries. You know, if you come up to me and you say, yeah, I tried to build something on my house the other day and I had code enforcement come by and X, Y, and Z happened. We need to know that, because if they're stepping out of line, we need to let the town manager know, because he's the manager over that person, and let the powers know that be. But an open form of communication is absolutely necessary. And I think that is how we're going to get people to actually come to our council meetings. Because if you've come to a council meeting, you feel like you're not being heard, why would I show up anyway? Right? If you're just talking to a mirror, why would I show up? So I believe moving forward, and this is me not prophesying, but hoping that we will have town hall meetings where it's just an open forum and the council people walking around eating watermelon and drinking sweet tea and having conversations with the town. I think that needs to happen.
Well, I haven't been on the town council yet, but I've been to some town council meetings, and I definitely understand that you have to follow the rules. You have to have it organized. You can't just have people coming up at the last minute, just wanting to suddenly think of an idea, think of a question, and just wanting to blurt it out and ask this question. You just can't have it constantly going like that. You have to have some organization with it. You have to write out the question beforehand and submit it or whatever. Otherwise, it's going to just run into chaos. I think Sam's idea of having an open one on top of that, where people get together, it's in an open setting to talk to council people about their problems outside their normal structured town council meeting is good, but we have to have water.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to have that because otherwise I won't talk. Okay.
That's why we have watermelon here.
I don't see it this time.
It's
We have it.
better.
Look at what I know. Okay. Anyway, I just think there just needs to be structure. So, and that comes from my background of the military and the nursing and hospitals and the prison system. We had to have a certain set of ways of doing things, and I like that.
Let me just interject here for just a second, and that is, the question was brought up that in a town council meeting, you do have the time and to bring up an item. The problem being is, I haven't seen these items end up on the town council's agenda or even a future meeting to discuss it. Now, maybe the town council took care of that. And if they do, it would be great if they would report back to the citizens. So how can we cure that?
Yeah, and I was gonna address that actually, Gary. You've got a good chance right now. You got 5 seats that are open. 5 seats, 5 out of 8, counting the mayor. Now is a chance that you can have a major voice in what transpires in this council in the future. I agree. Quite often, many times, I've seen people and I've heard want to be able to submit something and ask a question, you never hear it. It's like it goes into a Pandora's box. It disappears. The bottomless pit. Maybe it's just a garbage can. I don't know, Sam. But it disappears. And the council works for the people. And if the people can't ask questions and get a response, then what's the purpose of a council?
All right, at the council, if you read the agenda, yeah, they got the little fill out the paperwork, you can speak for 3 minutes. That's how they do it. But when somebody brings something up that's important, the council members can either, one, direct the town manager to check into that call and get back to them. 2, get it put on the next meeting's agenda. It's real simple, but they will not do it. Why? they're hiding something. What are they hiding? I've been trying to ask around and find out for the Planning and Zoning Commission. The town manager was at the last meeting, they had one. All about tiny houses. They want to put tiny houses on. Well, who? Give me a name. Is there a corporation coming in, wants to buy a land? Like, apparently they're already building one over where Rice Ranch used to be. I haven't seen it. That's what I heard. I'd like to drive over there and take a look. But listening to the planning and zoning meetings, I can't put a tiny house on my property. Now, if I own an RV park again, I could fill it with tiny houses. I mean, I don't understand their thinking. If a tiny house, say, if my mom or dad were still alive and I wanted to bring them out here, I know they wouldn't want to be cramped in the house with grandkids. That would drive them crazy. So they'd have their own little place, but I ain't allowed. That's where we got to take a stand. Planning and zoning shouldn't make the decisions for the council. They're another secret group. So we have them making recommendations via the town manager, via to the council, and then the council votes. I'm still waiting to hear that discussion on the council between 2 or 3 different members on anything. Not, I don't care about one particular item in that aspect. I would like to hear them just one time go back and forth on something. Well, I mean, while they're doing the council meeting, they should be able to do it, but they won't do it. So we need to bring it open back to everybody in this town, not a secret society. And I'm going to leave you with this. For years, anytime you would have a possible quorum, whether it was a concert, a restaurant, a grand opening, whatever, there was always a notice of possible quorum. And that was to keep 5 or 6 council members going to the restaurant and plotting against the people. And that's what it was for. But if you turn around, they don't do that anymore. They do it for the meetings, but not their private meetings. Thank you.
Okay, to wrap this up, we're going to give you 3 minutes to give your name and why you want to run it. I have a really important question I'd like you to be able to answer during this. And that is, what will be your #1 priority if you're put on the town council? I'll give you a minute to think on that. We'll start from the far end and work around this way.
At least I'll be done.
Give us your name and what's your #1 priority going to be?
I'm Randy Smith. I'm running for a 4-year and I am on the ballot. My #1 priority really is medical. And I think it's an excellent idea the point brought up about having a elderly healthcare for elderly, like a facility for them. Because when my mother lived here, I had to go and put her in assisted living place. And I would have loved for her to be able to stay here, though honestly, she would want to go to casino. Well, like Quartzsite, she loved the park and the park policy, loved her neighbors, talks about them constantly, how much she loves them. But I feel that medical, a doctor, dentist, a veterinarian, eye doctor, all of those are important to get here because almost everything, except for the clinic, is too far away. And like I said before, I drive some of my friends and my neighbors to their dental appointments, to doctor appointments, to Parker and to Blythe. And I have to go to Blythe for everything. So with my medical background, I think it's important for us to get stronger and more medical care especially for our senior citizens. And I would like to be on the medical board. I'm talking to no one about that.
That means I'm next. Sam Saxton, 4-year write-in candidate. My #1 would probably be remarketing Quartzsite. That's what I went to school for. Of course, I didn't finish, but that's what I went to school for, was marketing. And, you know, if you don't market yourself, you're going to fall flat on your face. But if you're not marketing yourself, you are actually marketing yourself. You're saying I'm closed. So what we need to do is we need to not necessarily rebrand, because we're still going to be the rock capital of the world, but we need to add on to that. We definitely, absolutely could be year-round tourism. Absolutely, without a doubt. We have it. They're not coming in. They're at our gas stations. We just got to get them a little bit further in town, spend some money. There's gimmicks that we can use. Oatman, they have donkeys. So if a bunch of asses can make Oatman money, thank you for getting that. We can use camels or something. But it is all these little towns that bring in money for their town. They have their gimmick. They have that thing that draws people off the interstate, that they're going to get gas, but then they turn and they see a billboard that says, "Ride a camel. Today's your hump day." I don't know. Today's your day to be humped. I don't know, however you want to put it. Marketing. It's genius. I think I should write that down. I think I should write that down. But I'm being serious though, that's what gets people to turn and see a sign that says something stupid, or not so stupid, but specific. With it's so simple. It's so simple, guys. It's not rocket science. It's just marketing, and we can do it. We just have to get the right people in the right places. Vote, right? I'm Sam Saxton. Tell your neighbors about me. We have an uphill battle. We do. Almost all of us are writing candidates. So if you don't know our name and where our name goes, that's important. If you put me in a 2-year spot, I will not get your vote. You have to put me in the 4-year, scribble that oval in, and write my name, Sam Saxton. But I'm excited for the future. I really am. That's why I'm on council. They didn't just pull me out of the town and say, "Hey, we want this guy on council," and then they appointed me. You had to fill out a little paperwork, saying and everything. So I got on council. I was fortunate to get appointed, but the reason I'm there is because I believe in our town. I believe our town has a bright and thriving future. Thank you, guys.
Devin Rosner, 2-year candidate, and I'm one of the very few who actually made it on the ballot. So you don't have to write me in, but you know, when you're as young as I am, I guess you can't find dirt fast enough. So here I am, made it on the ballot. My number one thing is actually going to be anti-corruption. It used to be small business, but things are so mysterious here, and I'd like to know why this town has been held back for so long when it is surrounded by opportunity. We have 30,000 cars cutting through a day. We're on the 95 and the US 10. You know, why for the last 8 years that the same group of people have been serving that not much has happened. We've seen one new gas station go in, and we've seen more than a handful of businesses leave. So I'd like to get on council and answer those questions and undo anything that's going on. Thank you.
Dennis Fosfer, and I'm again running for 2 years as a write-in. As Sam talked about, there were a group of us who should have been on the ballot, but there was a law that got in the way that kind of threw things off. But number one thing I'd like to focus on, and I think it kind of is an umbrella. I've heard a lot of, we hear a lot of talk about a lot of neat amenities, but these amenities all come about as a result of private entrepreneurship. So I believe we need to get back again. It comes right back. My number one priority is going to be returning government, encouraging all of our town government to focus and use the lens of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We must first protect your personal property rights, your inalienable rights to live and to work. And by doing that, that's going to create the atmosphere that will allow all the other things to flourish. And so that's where I'm at. I'm going to be focused on protecting your rights and getting government back to what it's supposed to do and that is to protect you. Again, Dennis Fosper, write-in 2 years.
Pauline O'Meara, 2 years. What I would really like to see, what I want to focus on is the creative angle. And that is the beautification here, there, and everywhere, especially on Main Street. The idea that was presented, I want to grab onto that in terms of exploring a facility where the artists, the crafters could have either, a place to sell their wares, whether it was on consignment or in little crafty malls inside one big building, either way. And also having one super duper major cleanup day. We would have to juggle around the BLM. Anyway, it's in progress. It's something to think about. And I've got a couple of resources in mind that could help in the planning of this, but it would involve having us as residents along with our snowbirds team up to attack specific areas of our town on a given day to establish a better unity, camaraderie, getting a feel for each other, and then having a major celebration that night, whether it's the Saxton group that performs or some sort of a concert that we have, but having food and music and revelry to celebrate the fact that we have worked towards beautifying our very own town that we all love, even our snowbirds. I mean, they've been coming here, some of them for over 20 years. So that is the other thing that I would like to do and more. But I also want to focus on increasing the participation of our town in attending our meetings. They're twice a month. You don't have to physically be there. You can watch them on Facebook, either live stream it, or you can watch it the very next day. You can zip forward, go backwards. But I really want for everybody to know exactly what we know when we sit in and watch them. What's going on in this town? And I want you to holler and scream if you don't like what you see. If we were elected and you don't like something that was said or done, we need to have you stand up and say something about it, because it's a two-way thing. We're looking out for you. We need you to be watching us. Thank you.
Again, my name is Richard Fries, running as a write-in for 4 years. And one of the reasons I'm running, the number one reason, is I was sitting on the sideline and I saw what had happened to these three men, trying to get their names on the ballot, trying to run. And it ticked me off. And I'm a pastor for 40 years, but it made me mad. I was a chief of police at one time, and I've got an accounting background. I've been a project manager, and I've gone in and I've had to do auditing of organizations. Some of them were national organizations. I didn't like it. So I thought, whatever I can do to bring attention. So what I'm asking you to do today is, if you can only vote for 3 people, sorry, everybody else, I want you to vote for these 3. I want to see them on the council. Now, if you can vote for a couple more, that's fine. You can choose. But I didn't say choose from the council. You can go to. Then I want you to choose. But I really want to see these young people. We are the older people in this community. We need to watch out for the younger people. And I've always been for the underdog. And whenever somebody gets treated bad, it makes me mad. And I got mad by how they were being treated. So I threw my name in, not necessarily because I wanted to get elected, but I wanted to bring attention to what was going on in this city, and it's wrong. It's not right. Okay?
Robert St. Germain, also known as Gunny. I'm on a 2-year candidate of writing. First thing I would love to do, get on the council, is go back here and get a copy of all the ordinances, what requires a permit, what the fee list is. Perfect example, about a 12 by 40 foot wood shed to put my museum in on my property. Went to town hall 3 times. Yes, I need a permit. No, you don't need a permit. Yes, I need a permit. It cost me $100 to put a building on my own property. And then with the rules. The old assistant town manager told me, he said, "Well, you gotta have 10 foot from the fence line." I said, "Would that be the fire code?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "How come the state of Arizona has 7.5 foot?" Oh, and by the way, you drive around and see all these new places. Where the hell is that 10-foot rule coming? Is it like from the clouds or what? So they don't like me to begin with, but I like speaking up for people. The codes and the ordinances, the permits, all that has to change. Safety will be a factor where, yeah, you'll get a permit, but it won't cost you nothing. And then if you have an electrician come in to keep the fires from happening, he'll sign off on it. He did the work, he'll sign off on it. We don't need somebody to go out there and check on it. Unless there's a fire, then we got a fire marshal, and we don't even pay him, so we're good to go. But we need to start looking out and be able to do what we want to do. Most of us are getting to the point in our life, we just want to enjoy life. We don't want the bullshit. We don't want to deal with somebody telling us at our age what we have to do. I spent over 1/3 of my life in the Marine Corps. I finally reached the rank where I could give that crap out, but I still got it from the higher up. So I'm retired. I love being retired, but I'm here for the people of Quartzsite. Robert St. Germain, 2-year council right. Thank you.
Just a couple things I want to cover here before we close up and thank all of the candidates for being here. I want to mention again, the Paper Free Press is the one who sponsored this. On your seats is a sheet there explains things about the Paper Free Press, where you can get it online and things you can do to help out. Their voters guide has been fantastic. How many's enjoyed their voters guide that they put out? Asking the tough questions, all the work that it takes. Stop and think about this. If you were going to do this yourself and put it on, of contacting all the candidates to see what you can get here to show up to make a full event. They've done a fantastic job. Lisa sent me a text message and said, "Don't forget, we've got the generals coming up in November, so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get the word out to people again for this type of thing." How many's really enjoyed this? I have. And I said at the beginning of this, yes. We can do that. I just want to mention one more thing, and then we'll take questions from the audience and wrapping it up. If you want to be a poll worker, please give me your name, phone number, email address, so I can get that on to Leslie, so we can get you guys signed up as poll workers. I'll have this up here for afterwards. And let's get questions from the audience for the candidates. We have one here.
I'm on now. Okay. So I'm going to pose the same question that I asked last time. We have a few more people here. We've had some time to think about it. Dennis gave a great example of some ways to attract people, and that is free the licenses from the town and make it back open for business. Sam alluded to making it attractive for people and families to come here to do what the West was founded upon. What ways have you been able to think about in the past week? Has there been any new ways that you have personally thought about to do the same thing, other than just those couple things?
I heard a great idea here the other day. I won't say where I heard it from, but it wasn't my idea. And that idea was to, because of the side-by-sides, was to have get somebody in here that could put together a basic training side-by-side business, one that could work on them, but those that come, especially in the wintertime, you get the snowbirds come and they could learn how to change their oil, or they could learn how to change their filters, or just do some maintenance on it. You know, have a little school where they could get a certificate or something, but something where, you know, the snowbirds, a lot of them are bored when they come down here. You know, I'm the pastor and they're wanting to do stuff at the church every night of the week. They wear me out. But something that they can do, you know, something that that could bring in business. Somebody mentioned earlier about the need for that side by side. You know, I hate having to take I usually work on my own, but I hate, if I have to take it over to the Parker. You know, gotta load it up and I gotta drive it over there. It would be nice to have that type of business here, be able to encourage, and again, you guys are right. We've got to make it a friendly business, a friendly town to do business. Right now, the people that I see, that I've heard, they're not happy because they tell me it's hard to do business here. It's hard to come in as a vendor and do something here. And again, our local artists are penalized if they want to do something. And we shouldn't do that. We've got to make it, again, I like that idea of having a central location where artists, craftspeople can go and do something and open it up for sale. So that's it.
I got tons of ideas, but whether they're feasible or not, that's another thing sometimes. One of the beautiful things, well, again, what we're talking about is trying to create the atmosphere that allows entrepreneurs to come and do these things. So our town doesn't build these things. They shouldn't. I mean, governments are terrible at building things. They're good at tearing things down and regulating. A couple things I would suggest. So Councilman Saxton over here, he mentioned Oakland. Oakland's a good example. My wife went to Oakland and she said, you know, what's crazy is people come all the way here and there's just a handful of goats. And it's like a little 1 block area. And she said, well, why don't we have something like that in Quartzsite? And I started thinking, one of the areas, burros, sorry. He's still trying to get his goats. You see, goats, burros, horses, camels. So an idea that I would encourage, you know, this, you know, whether I'm in council or not, I'd encourage like the property owner just west of the post office, which is right across from the museum. So I don't know if you knew this or not, literally right on that lot, right near Tyson Wash is the original spot where the Tyson well was. So I could foresee this idea of taking that whole place and creating a recreation, recreate the Tyson well, have stagecoach rides, camel rides, and you can actually have the actual well. So now we got a landmark where you could actually come and buy water from the original Tyson well itself. This can be tied in with the museum. The museum can give the ideas as well. So that's one of the ideas. Another idea is we got an airport just west of town. Current council, they want to move, they like the idea of an airport. They want to move it all the way up to the old test engine site, way out of here. The beautiful thing about what we have with this airport, I'd like to see it expand. Where government would get involved would be a municipal portion of the airport. So you can see part private because it's owned privately right now. It's in walking distance of our town. And so expand that to the municipal, and to the other end, have an airport. People that own airplanes have money, so they could be bringing in, again, business and additional revenue to the town. But what other place in the country can you fly in and walk to your downtown? So these are areas that can be expanded upon, and they should be expanded upon. So again, they'll be getting more land from BLM once again. And then third, the Tesla station. John Castro actually brought this to my attention. He says, we've got these people getting off the freeway with $65,000 to $100,000 cars. What are we doing to keep those people here? So we need to find other ideas, ways to get them to come away from the, you know, they go to Carl's Jr. and Burger King, and God help us that that's their vision of what they see at Quartzsite. So there's some ideas that we need to work on there. And I think getting the people involved too. I mean, governments usually don't have very good ideas and they usually screw it up. So finding ways to really energize the creativeness. We have a lot of really intelligent, experienced people in our town, especially, again, our average age is 72. There's experience here that can guide us into the future into some really fun ideas. So that's it, sorry. So long. Dennis Fosford, 2 years writing.
Paulina Mayor, one other thing that came to mind also is, I thought, wouldn't it be good if we had some sort of we've got a bunch of folks, Gunny's done a whole mess of things, Richard's done all kinds of stuff in his life. If we knew, and I'm not talking about your invading your privacy or whatever, But if we had an index of talent, so-and-so has a degree in doing mechanical such and such, so-and-so was a machinist, so-and-so had a fabric business. Somebody else repaired sewing machines. You know what I'm saying? If we had a listing of the folks that live here in Quartzsite that had significant education, that either they could open up a workshop on training somebody and how to be more independent and functioning in repairing or doing a specific thing, or being able to go to them if we needed advice or assistance. But having this index of experience are not our brain trust. The gray matter index of Quartzsite, I think would be a cool thing.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't here last week. Sam Saxton, 4-year writing candidate. I wasn't here last week, so I didn't have a whole week to think about this, but I had about 5 minutes. Marketing goes back to marketing. So I just had an idea, right? We get a billboard, okay? And we get a picture of all of our current council members, future, right? Future current council members, right? I was trying for an applause there. Come on. There we go. So a billboard on I-10 where we're all just kind of in arms and one of us in front with a big pair of scissors and red tape and say, we've cut the red tape for your business. That's what I'm talking about marketing. And if we have a whole new council, right? We can do whatever we want. Let's take over this guy. Right. There you go. That's what I'm saying. We're not career politicians by any means. We're exactly what you are. People with ideas. We need your ideas, but we also have our own ideas. And if you like them, let's make them happen.
Okay, is there any other questions out there? We have one here. James coming right here.
Almost here.
Hello. Okay, Dennis, that's an excellent idea about the stagecoach rides, excuse me. What's that? Okay, my question is this. There are properties, including one on Main Street, that contains a nuisance building that looks like crap. Okay. Yeah. I got something to say about that. It looks like that. Okay, anyway. What would you do, or how would you do it to get the property owners? Would you actually, I don't know how to word it. Would you put it, no. Would you put it as the town would like to buy this property for, or would you put it to them as, would you consider doing this with your property? You'd probably make a lot more money. Would it be more of a negotiating to the property owner to say, you know, that would be cool, I should do that? Or would you want to have the town purchase the property to do that kind of thing? Can I just say this really quickly? The camel thing is kind of dead. Can we get off the camel thing? Okay.
We like the camels.
Yeah. Well, anybody, but Dennis,
All right, well, first and foremost, if it's private property, it's up to the individual. And I don't think using government force is proper. So for encouraging, again, I think the idea that I suggested, like with Ham Staples, if you take the property that the town actually does manage, which are the streets. I like the idea that Ham Staples had with taking that Main Street slowing people down, getting it more business friendly. If you make a business friendly atmosphere, then that's going to encourage the business to come alive. What you're going to have, as far as the town making a purchase, you would have to justify, well, what's in it for the town to purchase that property. So just that they would remove one ugly property, but then now use costs to tear the building down. Or are you referring to the building at Moon Mountain and Main Street?
No.
So not the historical one, but the one just down from there. So there's several buildings that are a little dilapidated.
Okay. The new building is the one across from.
And I guess when you say nuisance, how do you define nuisance? How does it hurt anybody?
It's an eyesore, and it's a safety hazard.
But it's private property, so nobody's supposed to go on that property.
I know.
So I'm for protecting your property. If you have a property, and if you want it to look like crap, I'll protect your right to look like crap. That's your property. If that crap is gonna drip onto my property, now there's a problem. But encouraging business, I mean, for Main Street, it's gonna be to boost up and make it a more attractive place to do business. I mean, people will want to take those properties and convert them into uses that are gonna make them money. So it's gonna take time.
Where right now, like a high alley market, like across the side.
Yeah, that whole area is, I think would be a really good place to do that recreation. But again, it's up to the property owner is the key, but there's probably state and federal grants for all that kind of stuff. But as far as town force, no, as a town council member, it's just encouraging, throw out the ideas and then they need to, if your property becomes more valuable, you're going to take it and do something different with it. So the key is we as a town have not created an atmosphere that makes the properties more valuable to where it's not a priority for people. So we're going to have to reverse that. I think, again, going back to less government, lower the regulations, and make it easier for people to do business again.
The one I was thinking of is in the 500 block of Main Street. It's the big, big wooden building. Inside of that is an adobe building. Okay, I already know. It's up for demolition. It is a commercial and a C2 permit type of thing of a jiggy. It's under trusteeship, and the owners the people, the trustees all live in California. I have their names. The land, it would have to be level. It's worth about $134,000. It is 2 acres, 2.13, something like that, or 2.18 acres of property. That's not BLM. That's just wipe that sucker off and build whatever you want. So anyway, that is something that, besides when I said something about wanting to get Main Street beautified and make it, we aren't going to get anywhere in terms of marketing or anything unless our flippin' town looks like a town and it has some class to it or some character. I mean, it's got character. We got to revitalize some of that character. Anyway, I would love to see something happen with that building.
On the beautification part of it, I agree. We need to, anytime you're trying to market something, you clean it up. You got your house for sale, you're gonna trim the trees and probably plant grass where the grass is dead. Or put colored rock, as in Quartzsite's case would be, put some red rock, because you're probably not gonna have grass. But I'm actually in conversation with the lady, her name is Diane, I can't remember her last name, it escapes me right now, but the lady who did the mural at Solar Bills. I don't know if you guys saw that this last year, had the camel on it. I'm actually in conversation with her about making murals and the story of General Patton and camels for businesses to put on the side of their business. Now, that wouldn't be a city forcing, but I want to put it on the town hall. Just, I don't know, that I love murals. I don't know if you guys like murals, but I like murals. But the artistic flair, any town that I go to, a downtown, and they've taken a fire hydrant and painted it like a whatever, or the big electrical boxes and they've got art on it. It just automatically, I'm like, wow, they appreciate their town. And it's the little details like that kind of bring your town to life. And our town hall looks just dead. Can you imagine a huge mural on the side of our town hall building? That would be gorgeous. So I'm actually in conversation with somebody about doing that type of thing. So, and we need more of it. We need absolutely more beautification.
I think one of the things on this piece of property you were talking about, yeah, that's a great idea, but you've got to be able to entice someone to come in and buy it for $135,000, $140,000, but then invest. And then what are the state, or I mean, the city going to charge them for permits? And then your permits are up here. And so what the city would have to do is be able to waive, the fees. If the city does it, if the city does it, they waive the fees for themselves. I don't want the city to do it. I want to encourage entrepreneurs to come in and do it, but they've got to be enticed. And right now, where is the enticement? Again, we've got to be able to offer them an incentive. The tax, now it comes from, property tax comes from La Paz. Now, maybe it's possible that we can work something with the county to, and you're laughing, not able to happen with the county?
No, it won't happen with the county. The last 5 years, the county has lost $500,000. Oh. And then a couple years later, he lost another $500,000. Nobody's been held accountable, no investigation. That's what our property tax is like.
Okay, well, anyway, I think that, the thing we would have to do is what the city could do, what the council could do, is somehow to give an incentive for someone to, and give them a vision of what they want to do.
Like I said, there's a lot of things we can do. Get rid of the permits. As far as paying for them, we got to change our codes and ordinances. It's not working. We are keeping people away. The family that wanted to bring the goats for their kids for 4-H, they moved out of town. A year of dealing with planning and zoning. I mean, it's ridiculous. Our children, 25% of our population, 100% of our future. As far as the town, they cannot buy property. I'm still checking into that because we own the billboard behind the museum up along I-10. The town apparently bought it with the land underneath it. Now, there was a property come up on the council meeting a couple weeks ago where they were going to put a tax lien against the property. Now, if they don't pay it or whatever, somebody wants to buy it, they got to pay off that. Or after such a period of time, it should go in front of the sheriff. So they can't buy it, but they're supposed to get their money back on it. So we got to encourage people to come in and do these things. And there are groups in there, they're ready to come out here. I mean, now if you're going to invite somebody, I'm not going to lie to you. Invite them to come in November, December, January. Don't invite them July and August. Unless they're selling like giant air conditioners or something. Then we can get those things. But we have to look at it as perspective. We're very unique. We're a great little community. We got some serious good minds in town. And we got some not so serious minds. We just have to, we have to deal with what we have. And we have a great opportunity here for the future.
Hey, one more question here.
I just want to say that via Sushi on the interview we did on the web for the voter guide, he addressed the issue of what the state has done with the La Paz County finances, and that it has been audited. It has been he discussed that. So they have
put in, I think it was like a 2-year program, that they have this much time and they're being watched and what's happening. But that's in the interview that we have on our, on the website.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a comment to show character for these council people who have showed up, men and women who have showed up for all of these debates that we've had. And in my opinion, the type of character that y'all have shown up here was represented when one of the candidates said, I would love to see these 3 people elected. That person, Richard Freeze, is running for office, but he had the character and the. Yes, thank you.
Just trying to get out
I know. I know. I seen his wife over their mouth, and I'll bake you a cake. But that shows you the character of these people that's setting up here. And I applaud every one of them. I just wished I could vote in the community's elections. Unfortunately, now we're out in the valley. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we're gonna ask you, because of time constraints, keep questions real short so that we can try to get them in.
I'm so tired of being short and I'll be always overlooked. I try to make it to 5 feet, but I can't. All right, way back in the dark ages, when I graduated from college with college debts and 2 toddlers, Quartzsite would have been the last place I would have relocated to. There are not jobs here for young families. Maybe occasionally, like you've got businesses, different things, but I mean, I was in debt. What can I say? And I had 2 little rugrats. I needed to make money. So I head off to Illinois, and I've been all over the country. I moved my poor kids, I moved too many times. Anyway, there's one thing that I see. I tend to think outside the box. There's a great opportunity. We have got problems with energy, right? I can tell you, I got property in northeastern Arizona that I run totally on solar. It's great for residents. I haven't been up there for a couple of summers, but anyway, I haul water, I compost and all that good stuff when I'm there. But anyway, it's an interesting way to live. Solar, wind, is good for a resident. What do we need? We have oil is a depletable resource. I'm tired. In fact, I got to go buy gas right now. And eggs, everything's gone up. We're sitting in the middle of a desert. I understand water's a problem. There's a product, not a product, it's something God gave us. And I'm not a liberal, believe me, I'm a very conservative person. Hemp. Hemp is rope, it's not dope. It can be used. They're using it to print construction materials with. Are you with me or just laughing? You're with me. Okay, so I'm thinking outside the box. Are you guys going to be receptive to something like that? Because, you know, the stoners will come in and say, oh, that's wonderful. Separate the rope from the dope. And it would be a great, Henry Ford was building a car out of hemp. He was going to run it on hemp oil. But the greedy people like Hearst paid it. And it's been dead for decades. But it's right there. We've got desert. I don't know who all owns it, if we could do it. But I'm hoping that some of the younger people here will have a vision. And I mean a practical vision. Craft fairs are wonderful. I was involved in one in Blythe, lost my shirt. So anyway, let's think, yeah, it's right there. It's a gift from God. Are you receptive? Thank you.
Yes. Hemp, because hemp also is, as far as growing, you know, because we have down in Yuma, they're growing a lot of cotton, even in Blythe, doing a lot of cotton. Hemp takes less water and the number of uses is widespread. So yeah, our issue though, again, is gonna be water here. So we're not gonna want to grow it here, but utilizing the industries, other things we could do, like I suggested, the off-grid homes. So there's a lot of things we can do, but hemp is, I think, part of the overall strategy. I think we're even growing some hemp in Buckeye as well.
And also they save water. It's drink water. Yeah, we waste a lot of water.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think.
I've done a lot of research on composting toilets, on creating water out of the air, all that kind of stuff. It's all here. God gave it to us. Are you going to be receptive to using it?
100%, 100%.
Are we going to be, I mean, I've been here 21 years. I went to the old meetings and I was there when Ed Foster had everything taken away from him before he was sworn in as mayor. I just got turned off. I stopped away. But anyway, if you guys are receptive, I'll back you all the way and I'll help.
100% on board. Anybody else? Yeah.
One quick answer to that, as far as agriculture, hemp, whatever they want to grow out here. You do realize that we throw away hundreds of thousands of gallons of water every day in this town. It goes straight down the toilet, goes to the sewer plant. When I was on the council last time, I pushed and pushed and pushed since we had to redo that fire plant. All they had to do is put one more filtration system on. Would have been expensive, about $1 million. But when they're spending 30, 40,000 or 30, 40 million to upgrade it, what's $1 million? That water can be used for growing things. We could actually look like Palm Springs. You ever see their down the center of the roads, all the grass, everything's grass? That comes from the sewer plant. They're water wise. We can do the same thing with agriculture. We can just get things like that done. And now we have another marketing guy. Yeah, the hemp, I'm for the cannabis store. I mean, I worked security for a lady one time doing a 2-week show. All she sold was pipes and cans that were fake that you could hide stuff in. It's kind of funny, you know, the lipstick pipe, the cigarette lighter pipe. I mean, it was amazing. So she gave a class to the police on what she was selling. Over 80% of her customers, 60 years and older. Very few young people came in there. So, you know, as your security, you're bored. Hey, why do you use it? I got glaucoma. My wife has cancer. After she gets the chemo treatment, it's nauseous and stuff. She uses it. She don't have alcohol. They were all using it, the majority of them, for medicinal purposes. It's natural, it worked. Some serious sales tax would come from that. But our planning and zoning is coming up with these different rules now. And it's real hard to get a business come into town. When they do the research, they know what the laws are, and all of a sudden planning and zoning changed. Talking about murals, they were going to put up a nice 6-foot cinder block wall with steel gates there to get in and out of the business. People were complaining, that's ugly. Now, if they put beautiful murals on it, that would actually be an attraction to the town. And the sales tax, check with Lake Havasu, check with Blythe, how much they're making on the sales tax. You talk about taxation without representation, right there it is. So I'm for the businesses to come in. Whether I like it or not, I still want the business to come in. As long as it doesn't affect the community in a downward spiral. We need it to go up. Thank you.
You can have your question.
Just to answer your question, yes, we don't do nearly enough for sustainability and a future. We're in the desert, which means we need to be even more proactive. We're not in a luscious area full of water and constant rainfall and everything else for growing vegetation and all of that. There's plenty of things that people have been coming out with. We're in the year, 2022 here. There's lots going on. They have toilets where you wash your hands in the back and use that water over and over again for the flush. There's a million ideas out there to, conserve water and be recycling. And prosperity in the desert. It's completely achievable in today's world of science. Thank you.
Actually asked the council here a couple of weeks ago, or I guess about a month ago, about the water, about using the sewer water and recycling it. And they said, well, yeah, we've looked at that. And I don't know, were you there, Sam, that night? No, yeah. But anyway, it just kind of drifted in the wind. All right, go ahead and ask a question there.
Hi, my name's Chris. This is the third meeting I've been to, and every time I leave one of these and go home, my dogs are looking at me like, uh-oh, here it comes. Go get a friend, because we don't have the answers. So I looked up council members' phone numbers. They're posted, they're listed. Because why they aren't here just bugged me. No one knew the answer, so I can call and ask them. So I called one of them, with this call their person, and I texted them. Just a simple question. It's debate that I know of. Oh, I'm sorry. This debate that I know of from high school and presidential. Both sides are there. We want to hear your opinion. Okay. He texted me, the person texted me that. And the answer was because it's a setup. And I'm going, what? Uh-oh, this is what are we going to do now? A setup? We didn't ask them to meet behind Ted's truck stop and turn their lights out. We just want to talk. I don't think any of you people up there would be disrespectful in any way and pick a fight with anyone because that's not what we're here for. But that answer, I think, is total arrogance that they're so comfortable in their job, they don't have to show up. Kind of like fighting in the basement. They think they're going to get their job back, and so they're not going to get the for. I hope all you guys get places. Thank you.
Okay, we can take one more question. There's the one over here. There's a hand over here. Oh.
No, it how it feels about a certain subject. Okay, this is what I want to know. I hear about all of these ugly buildings on Main Street, the eyesores. We all know that this town is coded to the max. Are they in fire code? Are they in shambles where they're going to be a hazard to the town if they catch on fire? If they are not up to code, they need to be dealt with. So why isn't it done? And what can we do about it to get the code changed?
Same thing with that Kofa and Powell, that's a mousetrap snake.
Unfortunately, we've gone through, I don't know how many code enforcement officers in the last 10 years. I mean, it's a revolving door over there. He calls, hey, I need to speak to John. Well, he don't work here anymore. It's like, wow. But the town, they have to issue a citation. That doesn't go out very often, once in a blue moon. The new code enforcement officer, he goes around and he tries to give everybody a warning. Hey, this is wrong. You got to clean this up. You got to take care of that. But once it reaches past there, and there's a lot more paperwork involved when somebody won't do it. It's fines, not paying fines, taking them to court, putting lien on their property. It's so lax that if code enforcement comes over and writes you a ticket, you just, most people laugh it off, because nothing's going to happen. But we need to clean up our codes before we do that. The buildings, as far as a fire hazard, the town doesn't control the fire department. They're a separate entity from the town. They're the ones that do the fire inspections. I mean, when I had my RV park, I had a 7-spot. Well, I had to deal with the county health department. They would come down and inspect, right? Tell me what I can and can't do and who I should get for dumpsters and things like that. Then you got the fire department comes out. How many people there use propane in your barbecue? Where do you keep it? You keep it outside. You don't bring it in your house to use it. Well, you got to be so many feet from the house. Well, I got a big old patio there that I can burn anything in it. I ain't worried about it catching on fire, but they're telling me I gotta go out my property. That's why I got out of the RV business. I got tired of the codes, the ordinances, but we need to get rid of a lot of them. A lot of them have been on the books in the town since the town became a town. So we need to go through every one, every permit, every fee that the town charges. And we need to eliminate 90%. Thank you.
Well, if you want the code enforcer to go to the owner, just tell them to run for council and they'll be there tomorrow. No, but that is a double-edged sword too, as Robert was saying, you know, with codes, we can be coded to the hilt and then, you know, that's not what we want. We do want our town to be beautiful, but I think we need to do it in a more passive aggressive way of the aggressive part being we need to, the council needs to make what we can make beautiful. And I think that will send out ripple effects. And that's the aggressive part. The passive is, I'm not going to send a code enforcement to your business and charge you fines and this and that. But I do believe the code enforcement officer, and this is a whole paradigm shift. There's a lot of sheriff departments that have taken on this paradigm shift where they don't look like SWAT anymore. You know, back in the day, they wanted to look like RoboCop. And so that's not a very approachable person, right? You see a guy with a gun here, and, you know, going over the top with it. But if you see somebody hacking, you're probably not going to walk up to him and talk to him. But if you see a sheriff wearing street clothes, not street clothes, but casual business dress, a polo and nice slacks, and obviously they'll be wearing their gun and their badge. But that's more approachable than a guy that looks like he's about to go fight Obama, right? Oh, yeah, Osama bin Laden, the other guy, the other terrorist. I'm sorry, I'm showing my socks here. My point is, let's have our code enforcer go out and talk to that business and say, what can the town do to help you? Right? And have that conversation, not here's a ticket, bye, go pay your ticket. I think that's where the whole paradigm shift is what I'm talking about is, okay, let's have, the town's gonna pay for 50 pizzas from Silly Al's and 50 pizzas from the Outback. And we're gonna invite the town and we're gonna come in and we're just gonna have a good time of conversation. How can we make Quartzsite better, this and that, and start conversations. That's how we make things better. That's how we make things better in our relationships, right? If you're husband and wife, you're nagging each other all the time. You sit down on the couch and like, okay, what's going on? Let's have a conversation. You work your differences out. Tomorrow will mark 16 years of me and my beautiful wife being married. So she has sat me down on the couch many times. It's like, we got to figure that out. But you make progress through conversation, and that's how we have to do it. All we are is you. We're just you. We're just sitting on a council though. But we are here to protect your rights, but we need communication back and forth. So going forward, that's what we need to do is communicate. 4 year, right in.
Well, this is one area I'm going to disagree with Sam a little bit on. It's a contradiction. So if I go back to the very fundamentals of what is the purpose of government. Government is supposed to protect your property rights. So if you own a property and somebody else thinks it's ugly, and you want to use guys with guns to go tell that person you're going to pay money if you don't make it cleaner, we're undermining the very purpose of government. So they'd be like, this is kind of, maybe somebody's going to be mad at me for this, but so a lot of times people use this idea that, well, it brings the property values down. Or what is what would be the reason why everybody's concerned about the properties being ugly? Anybody want to suggest why do you think it's a problem? Well, if there's a safety issue, then yeah, that'll be taken care of. But a lot of people are just talking about ugly properties. And I talk about, I think I told Ken about this. Why don't we pass the fat and ugly codes? I think it brings our property value down and discourages people from coming to town. So we're going to force people on diets and force people to plastic surgery. Should we be able to do that to bring our property value up and bring people to town? No. So getting back again, it's the fundamentals of government. The primary lens, our governments are supposed to protect our rights. If there's a safety issue and that's going to cause harm to somebody else, then yes, the government should intervene. But if it's aesthetic, no, they really don't have a right. I know there's people that don't like that. And sometimes freedom smells, sometimes freedom stinks, but it's freedom. It's what makes us all free. And I think we need to protect that. We should not have men with guns from governments go enforce fines and jail time on people for not obeying it. Thank you.
I wasn't saying that we needed people with guns. I gotta go back on it. So if we have a code enforcer.
It's a little debate now.
No, yeah. So if we had a code enforcer, it just needs to be a simple conversation, not handing out fines and fees and all of that. It's the code enforcer coming and saying, hey, there's
an enforcer suggests guns and force.
Okay, so maybe not enforce.
We need to change the name.
Code beautification personnel.
We could free up a job and just tell people to respect one another.
No, so my whole point is just conversation, not tickets, not more fees. And you don't have to wear a gun. Unless you want to, because you're free to wear a gun, right? We're in Arizona. Open carry, baby. Or conceal. Right. And school property. Get that. There's another one. Does anybody want to debate me?
Yes.
No.
No. What happened here?
The tall guy.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a meeting about the budget before they finalized it or whatever. They took the code enforcer guy off. There was one to be added. They eliminated him to cut the money down because we got cut in our spending ability, right? Yeah. And then what was my other point? Oh, in terms of properties, etc. What about COFA and COWA? Now that to me is a safety thing, because if there ain't roaches there or rats galore, there's got to be a mess of snakes or something. Well, it's a whole bunch of rusty metal there. I mean, it's a mess, and it's like 2 blocks long of all that junk. But that's another. Oh well, let your conscience be your guide.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank everybody who was here. We'll be having some of these again, and I'm sure they're going to be in Patriot Free Press when we get ready for, this is the primaries and it will be the general election. Again, if you want to sign up to be a poll worker, I've got the list here. You heard I got orders to make sure I get this done. So.
I gotta run.
Sorry, I introduced them. I got to charge. Yeah, a little bit. But yeah. Oh yeah,
We're still recording. Yeah. But I do have something interesting.
Sad.